Chapter 823. But where is that kid? Not only were the people from the heavenly region searching for Lin Yu, but even the four great families of the primitive continent were searching for him. They weren't idiots. They knew that the sequence battle had reached its final stage. If they killed Lin Yu and obtained all the territories, they would have a chance to become the final winner, even if they had to run for their lives to buy time. Whoever killed Lin, you would be the first on the sequence battle board. Even Lin Yu didn't expect this. After Lin Yu killed Lei Dong and the others, he didn't go to the other territories immediately. He was worried that he would become the target of public criticism like this. But even so, he still failed. Could it be that someone is opposing me? Lin Yu frowned. He had a bad feeling about this. The rules of the 10-square world weren't like this at the beginning. Lin Yu could only think of one person who could affect the rules of the 10-square world. The six-winged divine king. Bai Jiu hid behind a big rock at the edge of the ceiling array. He wasn't stupid. He knew that although he had to protect Lin Yu and his teammates, it didn't mean that he could wait for others to come. Instead of letting others know that there was someone here, it was better to pretend that it was an empty city. He knew that the people of the primitive continent and the heavenly region were searching for Lin Yu. Once he was targeted, the two forces would rush over. At that time, no matter how strong the captain was, he wouldn't be a match for them. Haha, so he's here. Looks like we're lucky. It was just a pity that just as White Nine was putting on an empty fort strategy, someone still discovered him. White Nine shuddered violently. He glanced out of the corner of his eye and saw that the newcomer was standing on top of the teleportation array. He was looking down, and his gaze was fixed on him. I'm Nangong Huang. Get lost if you don't want to die. There were two people. One of them introduced himself. Bai Jiu recognized the other one. He was Nangong Tian, the first heir of the Nangong family, one of the four great families. Big brother, this person also has 10% of the territory. It's that Bai Jiu from the demon region. Then kill him, Nangong Tian said coldly. As soon as he finished his sentence, he was filled with coldness. It was as if Bai Jiu was a dead man. Before Nangong Tian could even look at Bai Jiu, Nangong Huang had already attacked him. Flames wrapped around his body, and a fire dragon erupted from his glabella, fusing with his entire being. It was as if he was the fire dragon, and the fire dragon was him. The aura of the 10,000 soul seal caused Bai Jiu's mind to rumble. Although he was also in the 10,000 soul realm, he had not fused with the 10,000 soul seal. Compared to the real 10,000 soul realm, the difference was obvious. If I devour you, your territory will be mine. Nangong Huang laughed and was about to charge forward, but Nangong Tian raised his hand and stopped him. Big brother? Nangong Tian did not answer. Instead, he looked down at Bai Jiu with a sense of superiority. Bai Jiu was nothing in his eyes, but Nangong Tian was more interested in another person. Do you know where Lin Yu is? If you do, I can spare your life. Nangong Tian's voice was heard. Although this person was asking a question, there was a commanding tone in his voice. Bai Jiu snorted. I don't know. Even if I did, I wouldn't tell you. If that's the case, then die. Nangong Tian's gaze landed on the city. At the center of the city, he saw the traces of a battle. At the same time, there was a broken compass on the ground. With Nangong Tian's knowledge, he could naturally recognize that the compass was the treasure of Dong Sheng Taoist sect, the Extreme Path Compass. The Extreme Path Compass is indestructible, but it's not a weapon. Nangong Tian squinted his eyes. He was extremely intelligent. He knew that the Extreme Path Compass would only be broken under a strong, demonic aura. Soon, Nangong Tian fixed his gaze on the entrance behind the compass. Damn it! Bai Jiu was shocked. He knew that Lin Yu's location was exposed. He wanted to stop him, but Nangong Huang attacked him with a fire dragon. Get lost! Bai Jiu roared. He unleashed his 10,000 spirits realm cultivation and formed a huge wall of air. The fire dragon hit the wall of air, and there were thousands of waves. The space was broken, and the city wall collapsed. Bai Jiu spat out a mouthful of blood. He was about to be defeated by this move. There was such a huge difference in combat power between the two of them, even though they were only lacking the 10,000 spirit seal. Bai Jiu dashed towards Nangong Tian again. He could not let the two of them enter. However, Nangong Tian did not even look at Bai Jiu. He waved his hand casually, and there was a suction force in his palm. The suction force locked onto Bai Jiu and sucked him down from the sky. Bang! Bai Jiu fell to the ground, and his mind was in turmoil. Bai Jiu had seen this suction force from Lin Yu before. At that time, he almost died on the altar, and Lin Yu saved him with this suction force. But why did Nangong Tian know it too? Nangong Tian was the rightful successor of the Nangong family. The skills that he knew were definitely from the Nangong family. Could it be that the captain was also from the Nangong family? Brother, I made a mistake. Nangong Huang also came and bowed to Nangong Tian. He put Bai Jiu down and let Nangong Tian do it himself. In the past, it was already a taboo for the Nangong family. Who's down there? Nangong Tian asked again. Just now, he had tried to use his divine will to check the bottomless entrance. However, his divine thought was blocked by some force, and he could not enter. The entrance was extremely dark, and Nangong Tian could not see anything. Plus, there was a broken compass at the entrance, so he did not dare to enter. There's a heaven monster inside. Don't go in if you don't want to die. Bai Jiu did not have time to think too deeply. He immediately got up and warned. He was ready to attack again, but he was too weak compared to the two people in front of him. When he was about to attack, he was suppressed by Nangong Huang. Bang! Nangong Huang sneered. You almost killed me, and you still dare to attack. If he let Nangong Tian attack again, it would mean that he was useless, and Nangong Huang knew what kind of punishment he would receive. Seems like Lin Yu is inside. Nangong Tian smiled faintly, just as he was about to step in. The other families in the primitive continent also noticed this place. Seems like the two people from the Nangong family have found something. We haven't seen them for so long. Nangong Tian is used to being arrogant. Maybe he's just a maverick. It's hard to say. Let's go and take a look. The person who spoke was a member of the Dongwang family. Ripples from a battle? Those people immediately noticed the traces of a battle at the city gate. It's the 8-land dragonfire. Nangong Huang attacked here. Did he encounter the people from the heavenly region? Or is Lin Yu here too? At this moment, Lin Yu's name was well known by all the sequences because he represented the entire realm of 5 elements. Let's go in first. Nangong Tian squinted his eyes and attacked. Bai Jiu flew out and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. He won't expose us, right? Nangong Huang was worried. He's just a dying man. After saying that, Nangong Tian brought Nangong Huang into the underground world. Chapter 824. Endless Stone Steps. The footsteps were getting closer and closer. Nangong Tian and Nangong Huang were about to reach the end. They also saw the altar where the blue flames were located. The altar was bound by layers of chains. Nangong Tian only took a glance at it before he looked at Lin Yu and the rest in front of the altar. Breakthrough. Nangong Huang squinted his eyes, but he didn't dare to do anything without Nangong Tian's order. The two of them came to the lowest level and stood in front of Lin Yu and the others. A powerful one. Lin Yu opened his eyes slowly. He knew that Qin Yi and the others were satisfied and didn't need the Heaven Man integration talisman anymore. He stood up and left the array where the 4 of them were. He faced Nangong Tian and Nangong Huang alone. You're Lin Yu? Nangong Tian asked. Lin Yu could tell that he was the leader and had reached the advanced stage of the 10,000 spirit realm. He was probably one of the top cultivators in the Qingyun domain and the primitive continent. Lin Yu spread out his divine thought to check the outside world. Everyone's divine sense was isolated here, except for Lin Yu's, because his power was closely related to that of the 9-tailed fox. Therefore, Lin Yu was an exception in the underground world and even the entire 10-square world. One more breath. Seeing that Bai Jiu was still alive, Lin Yu decided to leave him alone for now. Yes. Lin Yu answered Nangong Tian calmly without any fear in his eyes. Nangong Huang was surprised. Very few people wouldn't be afraid when facing Nangong Tian, because his elder brother was the most talented person in the younger generation of the Nangong family. apart from Nangong Ming, who betrayed the family. Nangong Tian represented the future of the Nangong family. Very well. Nangong Tian stood with his hands behind his back. Do you want us to do it, or do you want to kill yourself? His words echoed around the altar and were extremely arrogant. As soon as they met, he ordered the other party to commit suicide. Such tyranny was indeed worthy of being the top saving point of the younger generation of the primitive continent. However, he did not know that the person he was facing was not as simple as he imagined. Only these two choices. Lin Yu raised his eyebrows and smiled. Nangong Tian's voice was filled with an irrefutable command. Only these two. He had been arrogant the entire time. Even when his hands were behind his back, he had not stretched them out at all. In Lin Yu's opinion, this person felt that he didn't even have the qualifications to fight with him. Unfortunately, I don't like the choices others give me. Lin Yu replied. Nangong Tian smiled and said, You do have some skills. Lei Dong is considered the best among the trash. I didn't expect him to be defeated by you. When Nangong Tiandu arrived at the realm of 5 elements, he had a rough idea of the situation here. Among these top prodigies, they would always pay attention to the more powerful opponents. As Nangong Tian had said, Lei Dong was the best among the trash. So he thought that the 5 elements realm should be in Lei Dong's pocket. However, he didn't expect that it would be Lin Yu's territory now. Unfortunately, a man's wealth is his own ruin. Since you don't want to make a choice, I'll make one for you. Nangong Tian seemed to have lost his patience. In fact, he also knew how many people outside wanted to kill Lin Yu at this moment. If he killed Lin Yu, he would be number 1 in the sequence battle. He would also be number 1 on the sequence ranking in the future. The number 1 on the sequence ranking would have the right to choose any expert on the god ranking list or the monster god ranking list to be his master. This was the privilege of the top prodigies. Do it. Nangong Tian still didn't do anything. He only gave an order. Nangong Huang, who was behind him, immediately understood. He took a step forward and put his hands in front of him. Cracking sounds could be heard from his bones. Brat, how do you want to die? Noisy. Lin Yu's tone was calm. After saying those 2 words, he slowly stepped forward. How dare you make the first move? Nangong Huang sneered. However, just as he thought that Lin Yu was overestimating himself, he saw that Lin Yu suddenly sped up. There was still some distance between them, but in the next second, Lin Yu was so fast that Nangong Huang couldn't see him clearly. Fast. So fast. Nangong Huang widened his eyes and made a defensive move. There was a huge difference between his combat power and Nangong Tian's. Nangong Tian was an expert at the later stage of the Myriad Soul Realm. However, Nangong Huang was only at the early stage. Even so, Nangong Huang could defeat most of the sequences. This was the reason why Nangong Tian dared to let Nangong Huang attack. In his opinion, Lin Yu was similar to Lei Dong, who was only at the early stage of the Myriad Soul Realm. Something's wrong. Fire dragons burst out of Nangong Huang's body, and the Myriad Soul Seal between his eyebrows surged, trying to surround his body. However, just as he began to move, a finger appeared between his eyebrows in a ghostly manner. The finger was extremely fast and pointed at Nangong Huang's eyebrows. Bang! The 10,000 soul seal that Nangong Huang wanted to activate was destroyed by the finger. Myriad Soul Seal. It was the lifeline of a Myriad Soul Realm expert's cultivation. Even if there was a chance to rebuild it after it was destroyed, the first time was always the best. You damn you. Nangong Huang's mind was in turmoil. He saw the person who attacked. It was Lin Yu. However, he couldn't see clearly when Lin Yu appeared in front of him, and when he was able to hit between his eyebrows before he could react. Although the Myriad Soul Realm was strong. However, the Myriad Soul Seal was relatively weak. It could also be called the weakness of a Myriad Soul Realm expert. Nangong Huang spat out a few mouthfuls of blood after the Myriad Soul Seal was hit. However, when he wanted to retreat to avoid the crisis, Lin Yu had already appeared beside him. You're not even qualified to be my opponent, Lin Yu said casually. As he spoke, half of the green smoke penetrated Nangong Huang's body. Bang, bang, bang. Nangong Huang's organs were all crushed. Nangong Huang's eyes were filled with endless remorse. He was too careless. How could this brat be so powerful? In fact, Nangong Huang felt that he was even more powerful and ruthless than Nangong Tian before he died. Everything happened too quickly. Even if Nangong Tian thought that Nangong Huang could defeat Lin Yu, it would take some time. However, the situation had changed. Nangong Huang died in Lin Yu's hands, and he was defeated too quickly. Even Nangong Tian, who was always arrogant, couldn't help but feel his heart beating faster at this moment. "It's your turn." Lin Yu stared at Nangong Tian. However, even if Nangong Huang saw how powerful Lin Yu was, he still had a trump card. As the most outstanding inheritor of the Nangong family, Nangong Huang couldn't be compared to Nangong Tian's strength. "Interesting, you think you can challenge me after killing a piece of trash? Fine." Nangong Tian raised his right hand and clawed. He knew that Lin Yu's body movement was terrifyingly fast. In Nangong Tian's opinion, even he wouldn't be able to gain any advantage against Lin Yu's body movement. Therefore, he wouldn't fight head-on with Lin Yu. At this moment, Nangong Tian clawed with his fingers, and a terrifying suction force exploded. It was the fundamental superpower of the Nangong family, devouring the sky. Chapter 825. Nangong Tian used the most powerful superpower of the Nangong family right away. There was no other reason other than that Lin Yu had already defeated Nangong Huang in a matter of seconds. This meant that this person was extremely dangerous. Therefore, Nangong Tian wouldn't give Lin Yu any chance to escape, nor would he allow any accidents to happen to himself. The devouring starry sky exploded, and a violent suction force engulfed the entire underground world. There were stone walls on all sides, but at this moment, a strong wind blew, and countless cyclones appeared with Nangong Tian as the center, forming a huge whirlpool. Qin Yi and the rest were still in a meditative state, but they also felt a sense of danger. Their clothes began to flutter, and even the ground they were standing on began to shake. A suction force had not only locked onto Lin Yu, but it had also locked onto them. "Suck them all dry." Nangong Tian sneered as he knew that Lin Yu was already within the range of his devouring starry sky attack. Not only Lin Yu, Nangong Tian wouldn't let Qin Yi and the rest off either. If he wanted to kill, he would kill all of them. Lin Yu's clothes fluttered, and the ground beneath his feet started to crack. However, he remained still and wasn't affected by the devouring starry sky attack at all. Lin Yu crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at the airflow caused by the devouring starry sky attack. There was indeed a strong suction force on the airflow that could lock onto his cultivation. However, it seemed to be missing something as compared to his devouring starry sky attack. "Impossible! Why can't it absorb your cultivation?" Nangong Tian immediately realized that something was wrong. On the other hand, Lin Yu ignored him and soon found out the reason. When he inherited the devouring starry sky superpower, he felt a power that didn't belong to Glory Chi in the cave. The power was mysterious, and it was integrated into Lin Yu's body after he and Nangong Yu had sex. Since then, Lin Yu had the devouring starry sky superpower. To put it simply, he didn't cultivate the devouring starry sky by himself. It was injected into his cultivation by Nangong Ming, Nangong Yu's mother. As for the medium, it was Nangong Yu. "Your devouring starry sky is pretty good." Lin Yu smiled and looked at Nangong Tian. The latter was already in shock. He moved unhindered across the primitive continent, thinking that this move of his could absorb the enemy's cultivation base, making him nearly invincible. But today, what was going on? "I can't sense your cultivation. Could it be that you don't have any cultivation?" Nangong Tian asked doubtfully. But this was even more impossible. Without cultivation, how could he have killed Nangong Wang? "Cultivation, I have it." As soon as Lin Yu finished speaking, he activated his cultivation, and a majestic Yao Qi entered the celestial fox, 10,000 soul seal between his eyebrows. Behind him, the silhouette of a snow-white demonic beast appeared. This demonic beast only had one tail. When it was summoned by Lin Yu, a violent aura swept through the entire area. Heaven grade, 10,000 soul seal. No, it's not just heaven grade. Nangong Tian was shocked again. He was now certain that Lin Yu had a cultivation level, and he was a 10,000 spirit realm expert with a heaven grade 10,000 spirit seal or above. However, why didn't the devouring star seal work on him? Don't think about it. Your devouring star seal seems to be a pirated version. Lin Yu said casually. Nangong Tian was furious. This is the invincible superpower passed down in the Nangong family. How can it be fake? Lin Yu didn't bother to argue with him, because facts spoke louder than words. Therefore, Lin Yu raised his hand, and an aura also exploded from his hand. This aura belonged to Lin Yu. Devouring Star Seal. Gather the power of the stars in my hand for my use. Devouring Star Seal. Lin Yu said calmly. Instantly, the devouring power that was attached to Qin Yi and the others disappeared. The cyclone in the underground world also turned from 1 to 2. The second cyclone belonged to Lin Yu. Impossible. Impossible. How can you devour stars? Nangong Tian was shocked again. He knew how precious the devouring star seal was. It was the most precious treasure of the Nangong family. As for himself, after 20 years of hard work and astonishing talent, he had crushed all of the younger generation of the Nangong family and firmly sat on the throne of the first successor. Only then did he have the opportunity to begin practicing devouring the starry sky under the guidance of the Nangong family's elders. Nangong Tian spent a total of 25 years to get to where he was today. During the 5 years of practicing the devouring star seal, he had absorbed the power of many enemies. As a result, Nangong Tian's power increased, and he officially became one of the top younger generation in the 3 realms and 5 regions. However, the young man in front of him, who looked like he was 15 or 16 years old, could also use the devouring star seal. Moreover, he seemed to be as familiar with it as Nangong Tian. That was because Nangong Tian felt that his devouring star seal was restrained by him. The cyclone that belonged to him was being compressed by Lin Yu continuously. 1,000 feet, 500 feet, 200 feet. On the other hand, Lin Yu's devouring star seal was expanding continuously. After some time, it had already reached 2,000 feet. In the next moment, Nangong Tian spat out a mouthful of blood. His devouring star seal was completely pushed back into his body. In fact, his current cultivation level was already showing signs of breaking out of his body after Lin Yu's devouring star seal had locked onto him. Lin Yu was absorbing his power. No, don't absorb me, Nangong Tian roared furiously. However, he knew how terrifying the devouring star seal was. If he could resist, the tens of thousands of people who were sucked dry by him would have done so long ago. Nangong Tian endured the exhaustion of his cultivation level and tried to rush out of the underground world at full speed. He knew that he had hit a wall this time. Lin Yu was not someone that Lei Dong and the rest could compare to. He was very powerful. Not only could he defeat Lei Dong and become the most powerful person here, he could even use the Nangong family's devouring star seal. If the elders of the Nangong family found out about this, even if Lin Yu came from the Realm Sea, he would be dead for sure. I'll definitely report this to the elders when I get back. Just you wait. At this moment, Nangong Tian no longer hoped to take away Lin Yu's territory. What he wanted to do was to stay alive and report back to the Nangong family. However, since Lin Yu performed the devouring star seal, he naturally knew that it would bring him trouble from the Nangong family. However, he definitely had to take revenge on the Nangong family, because Nangong Yu was still there. The woman who gave him his mother's most important relic, the orthodox devouring star seal. She was still waiting for Lin Yu to save her. Therefore, Lin Yu would not let Nangong Tian go. I'll use you in exchange for her. Lin Yu raised the corner of his mouth and immediately had an idea. This person must be extremely useful in the eyes of the Nangong family. Although he didn't know the Nangong family well. As a sequence, Nangong Huang was very respectful towards Nangong Tian. Therefore, Nangong Tian's position in the Nangong family was obvious. Using Nangong Tian might be able to force the Nangong family to release Nangong Yu. At the thought of this, Lin Yu tightened his grip. I was just teasing you. He sounded like he was teasing Nangong Tian. However, even though it was just a casual sentence, Nangong Tian could still feel the devouring starry sky power around him. It was 10 times more intense. Chapter 826. This brat's devour starry sky was still hiding something. Why? Why is your superpower so powerful? Nangong Tian roared in midair. It wasn't just because of his devour starry sky. It was also because this superpower was the supreme technique of the Nangong family and could restrain all the techniques of the Nangong family. Therefore, Nangong Tian's power was completely restrained by Lin Yu. His combat power was nothing in front of Lin Yu. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Nangong Tian couldn't resist anymore and was sucked into the ground. Most of his power was sucked away by Lin Yu at this moment. Nangong Tian was in despair because of this instinctive restraint. He was a supreme talent, but he was pressed to the ground by Lin Yu in the blink of an eye. Let me go. Let me go. The Nangong family can pay any price as long as you let me go. Oh. Before Nangong Tian could finish his sentence, Lin Yu stepped on his head. Where is the woman you took from Realm C? Even Nangong Tian, whose life was hanging by a thread, shuddered when he heard that. Ow, how did you know? Nangong Tian was shocked. Lin Yu already knew the answer, so he asked again, Who is Nangong Ming to you? Aunt. Aunt. Then do you know who Nangong Yu is to you? Yes, yes. She's my cousin. Lin Yu smiled faintly and let go of his foot. Just when Nangong Tian thought that Lin Yu was going to let him go, a footprint flashed past him at an extremely fast speed. With a bang, it hit Nangong Tian's chest. Crack! The sound of bones breaking was heard in Nangong Tian's mind. He flew out and hit the stone wall. At the same time, waves of battle could be heard from the outside world. Lin Yu knew that Bai Jio was still outside. Just as he was about to leave, behind Lin Yu, the aura of the myriad soul realm soared into the sky, instantly illuminating the underground world. He knew that Lin Xiu broke through to the myriad soul realm. He only needed to absorb the spiritual sense of one more demonic beast before he could condense the 10,000 soul seal. Is there something happening inside? The light of the breakthrough was so dazzling that even the Donghuang family members outside noticed it. Tell me, is Lin Yu inside? The person who spoke was Donghuang Yi, one of the two sequences of the Donghuang family. 10,000 soul, realm middle stage. Hang him up and keep him alive, the other man said calmly with a lonely expression. After that, then, he arrived at the edge of the altar. This man's aura was much stronger than Donghuang Yi's. He was the main force of the Donghuang family this time. He was at the late stage of the 10,000 soul realm, Donghuang Jing. Boss, I just saw Nangong Tian and Nangong Huang enter. Donghuang Yi said. But Donghuang Jing did not panic at all because he saw that there was still no change in the surrounding area. This meant that Nangong Tian did not kill Lin Yu, or he could not kill Lin Yu. They have been in there for so long. If Lin Yu is inside, it means that he is quite capable and can withstand Nangong Tian's attack for a long time. Donghuang Jing said calmly. Donghuang Yi immediately understood. Boss, do you mean that we should just wait here? Yes, let's wait and see. I hope that Lin Yu is capable enough to help me consume more of Nangong Tian's energy. Boss, you are so wise. Donghuang Yi was overjoyed. This was indeed a good plan. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. After Nangong Tian killed Lin Yu and consumed a lot of energy, they would go in and kill Nangong Tian. Wouldn't they be able to get the vast territory of the realm of 5 elements easily? What are the two of you doing here? Just when Donghuang Yi and Donghuang Jing were waiting for the kill, a few laughs came from behind them. Damn it! Donghuang Jing and Donghuang Jing cursed in their hearts. They turned around and saw 4 sequences from the Ximing family and the Beimhua family. Donghuang Jing, is there anything good here? Why are you guarding it like this? These people were all very smart. Naturally, they were also very sensitive and noticed that something was wrong here. There was the aura of Nangong Huang's fire dragon 10,000 soul seal. There was also Bai Jiu hanging on the side. Nothing. It's just that this sequence from the monster area was ungrateful and wanted to take over our territory. I just taught him a lesson. Dongwang Jing said with an awkward smile. I see. I didn't expect that the young master of the Dongwang family would deal with the trash of the monster area personally. The person who spoke was the most powerful sequence of the Shi Ming family, Shi Ming Zun, who was at the late stage of the 10,000 soul realm. Like Dongwang Jing, his combat strength was already among the top sequences. He was just slightly weaker than Nangong Tian. As soon as the Shi Ming Venerable said this, the others also noticed the problem. Obviously, Dongwang Jing, who had always been arrogant, disdained to deal with Bai Jiu. In the eyes of the four families, although they and the 5 regions lived on the primitive continent at the same time, the 4 families looked down on the forces that were weaker than them, like the 5 regions. Therefore, Dongwang Jing's words were suspicious. Everyone looked at Dongwang Jing with more doubts in their eyes. The atmosphere was in stalemate. At the entrance of the altar, a ray of light came out again. Is there someone down there? This place blocks our divine thoughts. We can't see what's going on inside. Who broke through to the 10,000 soul realm? The sequences of the 4 families and the Qingyun realm are all in the 10,000 soul realm. Therefore, the people inside can only be from the 5 regions or the realm C. Everyone looked at each other and immediately made a judgment. Lin Yu was very likely to be inside. Damn it, get out of here. The fat sheep was surrounded by a group of people. How could Dongwang Jing give up? He rushed forward and wanted to be the first to enter the altar before the others attacked. Dongwang Yi also followed him. The 4 sequences of the Shi Ming clan and Bei Moi immediately felt that something was wrong. Lin Yu is really inside. Damn it, I knew there was something wrong with Dongwang Yi. It turns out that he wants to take all the benefits alone. Go, don't let others take the territory of the realm of 5 elements. For a moment, the 6 masters of the 10,000 soul realm were all ready to step into the underground world. However, Dongwang Jing and Dongwang Yi, who were at the forefront, felt the aura of a third breakthrough. Another person broke through to the 10,000 soul realm. There's a great fortune inside. Dongwang Jing was more determined to be the first to enter. However, the moment he stepped into the altar, a ray of black flame blasted out. Retreat. Dongwang Jing and Dongwang Yi put their hands in front of their bodies and resisted the attack of the black flame. Rumble. The rest of the people also retreated under the black flame. The 6 masters of the 10,000 soul realm scattered and stared at the young man at the entrance of the altar. It was a white-haired young man with vertical pupils, which was strange and unpredictable. Chapter 827. His body exuded the aura of the myriad soul realm, but he had yet to condense the myriad soul seal. Could this person be Lin Yu? His appearance and age are indeed similar, but according to the intelligence, Lin Yu should have black hair. Not Lin Yu, a mere early-stage myriad soul realm, courting death. Dongwang Jing wanted to attack again, but another attack erupted from the entrance. It was a phantom formed by the divine sense of rebirth in paradise. It was like a pure and flawless beauty, sitting in the air, overlooking all living beings. Divine sense myriad soul realm, it is a rare physique. This woman is not bad. Wait for me to take her into my harem. The Northern Mo Echelon and West Ming Zun sneered one after another. Qin Yi looked at her jade hands. Is this the myriad soul realm? She slowly converged her mind and landed on the ground, standing on the same line as Lin Xiao. At the same time, a blood aura erupted from the entrance. The blood aura soared into the sky, forming a monstrous sea of blood. In the sea of blood, there was a shocking demonic aura. A monster broke through? Like a monster, but also like a human. Even Bai Jiu, at this moment, dragged his heavy eyelids and looked at the tall man at the entrance. This guy turns out to be a monster. Bai Jiu was surprised. Even he, who came from the monster domain, didn't see that Lin Yuan's body was actually a monster. A transformed monster could still look so human. Lin Xiao, Qin Yi, and Lin Yuan appeared one after another. The fourth person to appear was the female king of hell. Although she had not stepped into the myriad soul realm, her aura at this moment was already at the peak of the four symbols realm. It was just that the current time was no longer suitable for her to continue her seclusion. The six myriad soul realms that appeared in front of her. They were different from Lei Dong and the others. These people were much stronger than Lei Dong and were the true top echelon. They represented the strongest combat power of the primitive continent. Interesting, 3 people broke through the myriad soul realm in a row. In the distance, in the sky, 4 people stood. They were the 4 great echelons of the Tian domain. Qi Lu, Wang Jie, Duke Zhu, and Fallen. The 4 of them were all at the peak of the myriad soul realm. He was only 1 step away from the Spirit King realm. The combat strength of these people added together was stronger than the 8 great sequences of the primitive continent. Because of this, most of the territories in the 5-direction world were under their control. Should we make a move? Qi Lu said. Wang Jie shook his head. There's no rush. Breaking through 3 10,000 spirit realm in a row, maybe those people have some trump cards. The other 3 from Tianyu also understood what he meant. Just like Dong Wang Yi and Dong Wang Jing at the beginning, they were going to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. That was fast. A 5th figure appeared at the entrance of the altar. When the figure was thrown out, everyone was surprised to see that it was the top genius of the Nangong family, Nangong Tian. What? Nangong Tian. How did someone like him get thrown out? Interesting. Did the arrogant Nangong Tian kick an iron plate this time? The people of the Xi Ming, Beimoi, and Dongwang clan were not only shocked, but more of them were adding insult to injury. On the other hand, Nangong Tian gritted his teeth as he lay on the ground. However, he had lost all his cultivation as all of it had been absorbed by the devouring starry sky. Even the devouring starry sky in his body had been absorbed. The superpower that the elders claimed would stay in their bodies forever was also absorbed by Lin Yu. In comparison, Nangong Tian was sure that Lin Yu's devouring starry sky was the orthodox one. Nangong Ming, UB*TCH. How dare you give the orthodox devouring starry sky to an outsider? Nangong Tian cursed in his heart. He had already understood everything. The reason why he was restrained was that he knew a secret of the Nangong family. The Nangong family's devouring starry sky was divided into 2 parts. One was the orthodox one, which could only be obtained through the inheritance of the saintess. The saintess body was the medium. However, if the saintess was unwilling, her inheritance would be given to her daughter after marriage. Therefore, Fan Tong did not master the devouring starry sky. Nangong Ming left the key to activate the devouring starry sky in Nangong Yu's body. That was why Nangong Yu said that according to Nangong Ming's instructions, she could only bring the man she truly loved there. The other part of the devouring starry sky was left in the superpower scroll in the hands of the Nangong family elders. One could only learn the devouring starry sky through cultivation. However, compared to the former, the latter could not reach the purity of the inheritance of the Nangong family's saintesses, no matter how hard one tried to cultivate. No, I have to live on. Nangong Yu no longer has the devouring starry sky in her body, so she has no value to live on. The reason why the Nangong family had not killed Nangong Yu was because Nangong Ming was dead. They instinctively thought that the orthodox inheritance of the devouring starry sky was still in Nangong Yu's body. The mystery of the devouring starry sky was not something that the Nangong family elders could find out. Therefore, they could not confirm that the devouring starry sky was no longer in Nangong Yu's body. Bang! However, just as Nangong Tian was having this thought, Lin Yu stepped on him again. It seems like everyone from the primitive mainland is here. He spoke calmly. Everyone else was silent because they saw Nangong Tian being stepped on by him. There might be someone who was as powerful as Nangong Tian in the crowd. However, none of them could beat Nangong Tian to such a state. Besides, they also knew that the most troublesome thing to deal with Nangong Tian was not his peak 10,000 spirits realm cultivation, but the divine power of the Nangong family, the invincible devouring starry sky. However, right now, Nangong Tian was being stepped on by Lin Yu. He is Lin Yu, there is no mistake. Kill him, and we will get all the territories here. This is a big piece of meat. Let's attack him together. However, even though the West Nether Venerable shouted, the others did not attack. They were still observing. After all, the situation in front of them was a little strange. Nangong Tian's ending was right in front of them. Why didn't the captain break Nangong Tian's tendons and only injure his cultivation? The Queen of Hell asked softly. If Nangong Tian was saved now, he would definitely be able to return to his peak with the other party's resources. By then, the few of them would have to face the counterattack of Nangong Tian and the Nangong family. The captain has his own ideas, Qin said. Qin said. She trusted Lin Yu's every move. Even though she did not know that Lin Yu did not really cripple Nangong Tian, he wanted to exchange him for Nangong Yu. If Nangong Tian really became a cripple, the Nangong family, who had always been utilitarian, would probably not be willing to exchange Nangong Yu for a cripple. Lin Yu, it seems like you are quite capable. However, look carefully, we have 10,000 spirits realm here. Seeing that no one was willing to deal with Lin Yu, the West Nether Venerable decided to test him with his words. Lei Dong also has 10,000 spirits realm. Guess what happened to him? Chapter 828. Lin Yu just said casually. But the result, when they saw the territory of the realm of 5 elements, how could they not know that the territory fell into Lin Yu's hands because Lei Dong and the others were all dead? The 10,000 souls realm experts were all dead, although they had already guessed the reason. But when Lin Yu said it, they were still a little shocked. This should not be something that a sequence from the Vulgar Sea area should have the courage to say. When everyone was shocked, Dong Wang Jing and Dong Wang Yi looked at each other. At the same time, they appeared beside Bai Jiao. Lin Yu, is this your man? Dong Wang Jing said, and then punched Bai Jiao. Crack! The bones in his chest suddenly broke, and Bai Jiao spat out a big mouthful of blood. How about it? As the captain, don't you feel embarrassed to see your man suffer? Dong Wang Yi said with a smile. It was easy to guess that Lin Yu was the captain. After all, only the captain of the alliance could be the first to get the territory. The crowd also sneered, although this was not the style of the 4 families. But now, it was a good idea to use Bai Jiao to mess up Lin Yu. It would be better to test the real situation of Lin Yu. What Dong Wang Jing and Bai Jiao did was a good idea. Seeing this, the sequences of the other 3 families also consciously surrounded Bai Jiao. Obviously, they did not want Lin Yu to save people. In other words, they wanted to force Lin Yu to come and save people. Once the other side rushed over, there would be a chance to expose his flaws. At that time, these top talents, the strongest young generation in the primitive continent, would have a chance to find his flaws and push Lin Yu to eternal damnation. Captain, don't worry about me. Bai Jiao spat out a big mouthful of blood, and his face was full of humiliation. He wanted to commit suicide, but Dong Wang Yi pointed between his eyebrows. Boy, you want to blow yourself up? You have no chance. The next moment, Dong Wang Ye's seal of 10,000 souls came out from his fingertips and directly attacked Bai Jiao's divine thoughts. Ah! White Nine held in pain. Martial Dao powerhouses could rely on their powerful spiritual consciousness to restrain the pain of their bodies. But if their spirit was tortured, it would be worse than death. Bastards, these bastards. Enraged, the female king of hell rushed out. However, the West Nether Reverend immediately sneered. The 10,000 souls seal flashed, and a sword of energy shot out. The female king of hell had already exposed her weakness, and the chi sword directly hit her vulnerable spot. With a whoosh, it pierced through her abdomen. Can't even withstand a single blow. As soon as the West Nether Reverend finished speaking, a hook flew out from one of the Baymoth family's echelon cultivators, directly hooking the female king of hell. Stop! Chini braced herself and attacked. When she reappeared, she was already beside Yama. The hook collided with Qin Yi's arm. Bang! Qin Yi tried to use her cultivation to resist, but the owner of the hook laughed. I knew there would be people who are not afraid of death. He turned around instantly. In fact, he had already prepared a card and was waiting for others to save her. In the next moment, the hook that was originally bounced off actually bounced back again and circled Qin Yi's right arm a few times. Little beauty, come here. The Beima echelon laughed and pulled, and Qin Yi suddenly lost her balance. Lin Xiao and Lin Yuan saw this and attacked at the same time. Lin Yuan smashed down with his fist, and the chain in front of the hook shattered instantly and was hit on the ground. Qin Yi's body that was being pulled also regained her freedom. As for Lin Xiao, the divine item behind him shone brightly, and endless black flames burst out from the sky, reflecting mirror. The black flames refined from the golden crow fire completely erupted Lin Xiao's combat strength at this moment. The raging black flames fell, and the large-scale attack made everyone frown. You dare to show off in front of me with this kind of flame? The Beima echelon was already a little unhappy that his hook was interrupted, and at this moment, a cold aura burst out from his body. In between his eyebrows, the myriad soul realm erupted and transformed into a big python. The python's body was actually covered in layers of bright red ice. Mysterious myriad soul realm, frost blood python. This kid is something. The Beima echelon roared, and the frost blood python circled in the sky and directly blocked the black flames that shot down. Those black flames hit the blood python and were all blocked by the blood ice, unable to break its body at all. Lin Xiao frowned, knowing that he was still a distance away from the real myriad soul seal. His figure changed, and a demon god appeared behind him again. Fight him to death for me. The blood python also opened its bloody mouth and shot out dozens of ice pillars directly. In the sky, the battle between Lin Xiao and the Beima echelon erupted. Below, the West Nether Venerable wanted to sneak an attack on Qin Yi, but was stopped by Lin Yuan. Your opponent is me. A mere myriad soul realm warrior dares to be rash. The West Nether Venerable sneered, and the myriad soul seal between his eyebrows erupted, and a sword dragon broke through the air. 10,000 rays of sword chi directly locked onto Lin Yuan. War Emperor Phantom. Lin Yuan roared, and the phantom of the myriad beast War Emperor appeared behind him. At this moment, the phantom was countless times larger and stronger than the myriad beast War Emperor. It was the strongest state that Lin Yuan could display with the myriad soul realm. The combat strength of these two is not bad. The West Nether Venerable was stopped, and the second echelon of the Beima family had already targeted Qin Yi. You are a divine sense myriad soul realm, right? Me too. That person rushed toward Qin Yi, and at the same time, the myriad soul seal between his eyebrows erupted. It turned out to be a huge wheel. Mysterious myriad soul seal, divine sense wheel king beast. Under the wheel, there were actually countless eyeballs, and it was extremely terrifying. Disgusting. Qin Yi cursed, and her jade-like hands formed a seal in front of her chest, and the divine sense of rebirth in paradise erupted. Her divine sense split into two into 4, and 4 into 10. It was like 10 generations of great Tao, and she attacked with a loud bang. Bang, bang, bang. The three of them held back the 3 myriad soul realms at the same time. What's wrong with these 3 people? They have just broken through the myriad soul realm, but they are actually fighting with opponents at the middle stage of the myriad soul realm. I think the foundation of these 3 people must be very powerful. When they were in the 4 symbols realm, they had already accumulated a perfect foundation. Now that they have stepped into the myriad soul realm, they can have top-level combat strength so quickly. Although Qin Yi and the others were still struggling to deal with the middle stage of the myriad soul realm, in Lin Yu's opinion, they had already done a good job. The remaining 3 people were Dongwang Jing, Dongwang Yi, and the second echelon of the West Nether clan, Shi Mingjue. The 3 of them fixed their eyes on Lin Yu at the same time. He was the only one who didn't really attack. Dongwang Yi, It seems that your means are just SOSO. He didn't shout loudly enough. Shi Mingjiu sneered, and naturally, he was reminding Dong Wang Yi. If he wanted to break Lin Yu's Taoist heart, then Bai Jiu would have to suffer a little more. Let me die, let me die. Don't worry, you won't die. I will torture you slowly. Dong Wang Yi laughed, as if the more miserable Bai Jiu shouted, the more excited he would be. Chapter 829. Hearing Dong Wang Ye's words, Bai Jiu endured the severe pain. His eyes were bloodshot and blue veins were bulging on his face. But his voice was getting lower and lower. Damn it, shout louder. Dong Wang Yu was very unhappy and increased the strength of his divine thoughts. But Bai Jiu's voice was still getting lower and lower. Boy, you can really endure it? Dong Wang Yi directly increased the strength of his divine thoughts, while Shi Mingjiu on the side reminded him, be careful not to kill him. He had already seen that Bai Jiu's eyes, ears, and nostrils were all gushing out blood. Obviously, this person was struggling to endure the pain of the divine thoughts, and in the process, even his combat body was injured. Dong Wang Yi did not attack his combat body, but Bai Jiu's combat body was bleeding from his 7 orifices. It was imaginable how much pain Bai Jiu's divine thoughts were suffering at this moment. Damn it, shout. How can you not bring Lin Yu here? Dong Wang Yi was anxious and directly released his divine thoughts. The next moment, endless thunder seemed to appear in Bai Jiu's mind, and each thunder was adding to his pain. Lin Yu glanced in the distance, where the 4 sequences of the Qingyun domain were also staring at him. Boy, it seems that you have no other choice. Bai Shaoli's voice came. Lin Yu sighed. Bai Shaoli smiled and said, don't worry, if it's just these people, even if you use all your trump cards, they're no match for you. That's the best. Lin Yu had long wanted to take action, but considering the overall situation, he could not act rashly. He was the last trump card of his camp, so he had to be careful step by step. If even he showed a flaw and fell in front of these people, then Qini, Lin Yuan, Lin Xiu, and the Queen of Hell would end up worse than Bai Jiu. I'm just worried that your opponents are not only these people. Bai Shaoli said again. Lin Yu frowned. Spirit King Realm cultivators can enter the 10-square world. Among the sequences here, the strongest was only at the peak of the 10,000 souls realm. Lin Yu could still deal with them. However, if it was a Spirit King Realm expert, it would not be easy to deal with. A Spirit King Realm battle body can't enter the 10-square world, but Spirit Sense can. Once, there was a very strong guy who came here. His personality is similar to yours. Bai Shaoli's words made Lin Yu even more worried. If that was the case, there might be more variables in the end of the battle here. Forget it. Lin Yu knew that now was not the time to think about this. His figure changed as he moved. The moment he moved, all the gazes that had stopped on him also moved at this moment. This brat has finally made his move. Let's see how he could defeat Nangong Tian and Lei Dong. However, what they saw was Lin Yu transforming into a white light and rushing towards Bai Jiu. Captain, be careful. Bai Jiu knew that Lin Yu did not give up on him in the end. He was full of guilt and knew that Lin Yu had to take a great risk to save him this time. The sequences of the primitive continent were in the light. The sequences of the Qingyun realm were in the dark. Once they exposed their trump cards in order to save him, they would face a greater crisis. I'm sorry. I'm not strong enough. Bai Jiu coughed up blood. Even now, Dong Wang Yi had stopped and was observing Lin Yu's movements with Shi Mingjiu and Dong Wang Jing. However, the pain in Bai Jiu's heart was even deeper than before. He saw Qin Yi, Lin Yuan, and Lin Xiu, who were fighting fiercely. The 3 of them were weaker than him at the beginning, but at this moment, the 3 of them had surpassed him in combat strength. Their potential was much greater than his. Bai Jiu gritted his teeth. If he could survive this time, he would not be Lin Yu's burden for the second time. This guy has some skills. I can't see him clearly. Dong Wang Jing and Shi Mingjiu were at the peak of the myriad soul realm. But Dong Wang Yi, who was behind them, could not help but curse secretly. Because he was only at the middle stage of the myriad soul realm, he could not see Lin Yu's movements now. Seeing this, Dong Wangyi took a step back subconsciously. Because he was the one who abused Bai Jiu. Maybe the first person Lin Yu killed would be him. Thinking of this, Dong Wangyi could not help but be vigilant. He disappeared. Damn it, he can be faster. From the beginning of the white light to now, Lin Yu had completely disappeared from their sight. The speed was so fast that Dong Wangjing and Shi Mingjue were shocked. The two of them released their cultivation, and the myriad soul seal surrounded their bodies. They were in their strongest state, ready to kill Lin Yu at any time when he appeared. In the distance, the sequences of the Qingyun realm narrowed their eyes. Can you see him clearly? Very fast. I can barely see him clearly. He is coming. As soon as Qi Lu finished his words, Lin Yu had appeared again. But he did not appear in front of Dong Wangjing and Shi Mingjue. Instead, he appeared in front of Dong Wangyi. Damn it! Dong Wangjing and Shi Mingjue noticed Lin Yu's attack. When they turned around, Lin Yu had already caught Dong Wangyi, who was scared out of his wits. He was so fast that his right hand directly transformed into four-sword Qi. The four-sword Qi cut off the tendons of Dong Wangyi's hands and feet respectively. Dong Wangyi screamed in pain. Then Dong Wangjing and Shi Mingjue attacked Lin Yu. However, Lin Yu did not even look at them. Azura burst out. A dark magic shadow rose from the ground and formed an indestructible defense. Bang, bang, bang. The opponent's attacks were all blocked by Azura. At this moment, Lin Yu had already carried Dong Wangyi, who had no strength to resist, to Bai Jiu. His eyes flashed, and the chains that were hanging Bai Jiu were cut off. Captain, I am sorry, Bai Jiu apologized. When he regained his freedom, he could not stand steadily and fell to the ground, trembling. But even in such a great pain, Bai Jiu still had his dignity. He knew that he was a burden to Lin Yu. It doesn't matter. Lin Yu just smiled faintly. His smile made Bai Jiu feel relieved. It seemed that he was telling Bai Jiu that the situation in front of him was nothing at all. The next moment, Bai Jiu was shocked to find that all his injuries were healed at this moment. This was exactly the same as when he faced the fierce laughing ghost. At that time, they were injured by the fierce laughing ghost. After Lin Yu appeared, they were healed in an instant. Instead of being healed, it was better to say that their bodies were restored to the state before they were injured. I want him to suffer 10 times more pain than you. Lin Yu threw Dong Wangyi down. Dong Wangyi, whose tendons were cut, was instantly suppressed by Bai Jiu. Captain, leave the others to me. Lin Yu turned around, and Shi Mingjue and Dong Wangjing had already rushed up. Chapter 830. Bai Jiu knew that he was no match for these people. Now that Lin Yu had given the order, he looked at Dong Wangyi, who was begging for mercy on the ground. Every dog has its day. Let me go, I was wrong. I was wrong. It was also the destruction of the divine thoughts. However, at first, Dong Wangyi had to consider whether he could kill Bai Jiu. But Bai Jiu didn't need to do that. Lin Yu's order was very simple. He wanted Dong Wangyi to suffer 10 times more than he did. This was to vent Bai Jiu's anger, and also to disturb the Taoist heart of the people on the primitive continent. What was more, it was a warning to the people in the Qingyun region. This was the result of offending Lin Yu. Dong Wangyi didn't have the endurance of Bai Jiu. In an instant, his painful roar resounded in all directions. This guy is so cruel. Not really. He just wants to give him a taste of his own medicine. Wang Jie and Qi Lu said one after another. Around the battlefield where Lin Yu was. After hearing Dong Wangyi's voice, Qin Yi and the others were very confident. However, because of Dong Wangyi, their opponents were distracted for a moment. The three of them found an opportunity to fight back immediately. From being at a disadvantage, they were now evenly matched. In front of Lin Yu, Shi Mingjue and Dong Wangjing were a little confused. This guy didn't even need to make a move, but he could resist their attacks. He was not simple. Split into 2 directions, Shi Mingjue said, and Dong Wangjing also nodded. The two of them attacked Lin Yu from left and right at the same time. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The two of them thought that Lin Yu's movement was extremely fast, so they didn't choose to attack from a distance. That would only give Lin Yu a chance to dodge easily. Once they lost Lin Yu's vision again, maybe the next moment, they would end up like Dong Wang Yi. So the two of them attacked at the same time, and they chose to fight at close range. Bang bang. Western Mingjue punched out, aiming straight for Lin Yu's face. Lin Yu didn't even look at him. He lifted his right hand and pointed out. Sword chi gushed out from his fingertips. Bang bang bang. Shi Mingjue's fist energy was scattered, but a fine silver needle flew out from between his eyebrows. 10,000 feet poisonous scorpion. Shi Mingjue activated the 10,000 souls seal. The silver needle came from the tail of the 10,000 feet poisonous scorpion. However, Lin Yu's perception was fully activated. With a flick of his finger, the silver needle immediately changed its direction. Dong Wang Jing, who was about to attack from the right, was shocked. He immediately dodged and was almost hit by the silver needle. Western Mingjue, are you King trying to kill me? What does it have to do with me? It's this brat. Western Dark Abyss was speechless. He had killed countless opponents with this move, but he didn't expect this brat's reaction to be so fast. Once again, he swept out his foot. Dong Wang Jing, who had adjusted his state, also raised his foot in the air. The two of them attacked Lin Yu from both sides, one above and one below. Lin Yu was not in a hurry. He just raised his right hand and blocked Dong Wang Jing's foot. Got it. Shi Mingju kicked Lin Yu's leg. He thought that Lin Yu would lose his balance and expose more flaws. However, he felt a sharp pain in his foot. The hardness of Lin Yu's body was beyond his imagination. Damn it, this brat has reached the 10,000 souls realm. Shi Mingju cursed. His leg was almost broken by himself. However, when he wanted to withdraw his foot, Lin Yu lifted his foot at a faster speed and directly stepped on the air where Shi Mingju was about to withdraw his foot. Ah! Shi Mingju screamed in pain. His right calf was stepped on by Lin Yu and smashed to the ground. Dong Wang Jing. Shi Mingju cried for help, but Dong Wang Jing was helpless. His attack was also blocked by Lin Yu. Damn it, the heavenly grade 10,000 soul seal and the shaman demonic spider. Dong Wang Jing exerted all his strength. A huge phantom of a spider appeared and bit down on Lin Yu. What waste of time. Lin Yu stepped on Shi Mingjue's foot and rose into the air. He raised his right hand, and the phantom of Azura burst out. The sky above seemed to be sucked in. The sky instantly compressed, turning into an incomparably sharp disk of chi. It was the extreme Devil Tao Tian. The extreme Devil Tao Tian broke through the air and collided with the heavenly grade 10,000 soul seal spider. The spider's body was instantly sliced apart, as if it was a dried twig. The 10,000 soul seal was injured and Dong Wang Jing spat out a mouthful of blood. He stared at the extreme Devil Tao Tian that cut open the spider and felt a sense of crisis. This thing is so sharp. Dong Wang Jing dodged again and again, but Lin Yu was too lazy to chase after him. With his right hand, the extreme Devil Tao Tian smashed down directly. Below him was Shi Mingju, who had just wanted to escape and was dragging half of his leg. No! Looking at the extreme Devil Tao Tian that was constantly enlarging in the sky, Shi Mingju's voice was still in the air, but his whole body had been cut into two. His head was separated from his body. At the same time, as the extreme Devil Tao Tian exploded, Shi Mingju's body could be said to have turned into ashes. The most powerful genius of the Shi Ming family died at this moment. In the distance, Shi Mingju noticed the death of Shi Mingju and was also confused. And this flaw was immediately discovered by Lin Yuan. With a full blow, Shi Mingju was hit by Lin Yuan, and his whole body smashed to the ground. Damn it, why are you so difficult to deal with? Lin Yuan's injuries were more serious than his, but the other party was like a killing machine. The more he fought, the stronger he became, and he couldn't stop at all. At this moment, as soon as Shi Mingju fell, Lin Yuan wouldn't give him a chance to fight back. He raised his hands, and a powerful blood energy instantly gathered on his fists. The fist energy of his hands merged, and at this moment, countless blood-colored fist shadows burst out. These fist shadows were not substantial, nor were they any techniques, but Lin Yuan's powerful body rubbed against the air at high speed. Air cannon. Tens of thousands of air cannons fell, and the whole continent began to shake. Shiming Ju's roar came out from the beginning and was swallowed up in the next moment, all in the blink of an eye. The people of Tianyu have been shocked by the extreme devil Tao Tian displayed by Lin Yu. What kind of technique is that? I'm afraid it's not a technique. With such power, I'm afraid it's a magical ability. In a small, low-level sea area, there is actually a sequence that knows magical abilities. Interesting. Even the people of Tianyu had to be afraid of Lin Yu at this moment. From the beginning, they sat on the mountain and watched the tigers fight. Until now, they had foreseen that the winner of the battle between these two forces would be Tianyu. If we make a move now, we might have a chance to join forces with the people of the primitive continent to kill Lin Yu. Wang Jie said, "We are the dignified Tianyu. Why do we need to join forces with that group of trash? Let them all die, and then it won't be too late for us to make a move. They are just a few small fries of Tianyu." Qi Lu sneered. Now, it would be best if he helped us deal with the others. Yes, if our Tianyu joined forces with them, it would be lowering our status. Chapter 831. Yes, if our Tian domain joins forces with them, it will be lowering our status. The third sequence Duke, Ju, also said. Fallen, what do you think? Qi Lu asked the fourth sequence. This person was taciturn, but his judgment of the situation was extremely accurate. That kid is not simple. The three of us need to work together to deal with him. The fourth sequence Fallen spoke. He was a middle-aged man and could be said to be the military advisor of the four. Fallen, you think too highly of Lin Yu. He doesn't think highly of Lin Yu. I think he's looking down on us. Wang Jie and Duke Ju said coldly. Although these people represented the Qingyun realm, they were just as conceited in character. Not to mention that the people of the Tian domain boasted of being the masters of the 3 realms and 5 regions. Their individual strength alone was invincible among the younger generation of the 3 realms and 5 regions. So they naturally did not value the other younger generation. Now Fallen said that the 3 of them needed to work together to defeat Lin Yu. Wasn't this sentence looking down on them? You guys just be careful. Fallen was too lazy to argue and stared at Lin Yu the whole time, as if analyzing the other party's weakness. Unfortunately, his gaze was filled with helplessness and shock, because he couldn't find Lin Yu's weakness. This person's combat experience was definitely not something he could have at his age. Who the hell is he? While Fallen was pondering, Dongwang Jing also died in the hands of Lin Yu. Since Lin Yu made a move, he would not give the other party a chance to live. If these people of the top forces were to return, then he would have endless troubles in the future. And Lin Yuan also defeated Shi Mingzun. Shi Mingzun's combat strength was not as good as Shi Mingzun's. After Shi Mingzun's death, his combat strength was indeed a lot more chaotic. Coupled with Lin Yuan's battle instinct, he was extremely difficult to deal with. Under the tens of millions of air cannons, Shi Mingzun was already dead. In other directions, after Lin Xiu saw that Lin Yuan had defeated West Mingzun, his northernmost sequence opponent was also distracted. After all, the Dongwang family and Shi Ming family had all fallen, including Nangong Tian at the beginning. Out of the 4 major families, 3 of them had died. Damn it, I can't fight anymore. There is something strange about this group of people. Vaimoi's 2 echelons wanted to retreat at the same time, but the battle was already halfway through. Once they had the thought of retreating, how could the other party give up just like that? As a result, Qin Yi and Lin Xiu attacked with all their might, and the northernmost echelon also showed signs of defeat. Lin Yu knew that the outcome of their battle would be decided very soon. Go and help him, Lin Yu ordered. After killing Dongwang Yi, Bai Jiao, who was in a good mood, and Lin Yuan, who had defeated West Mingzun, joined the battlefield again. With a wave of his hand, Lin Yu appeared beside Yama and healed her injuries. The female Yama had a guilty look on her face. Just like White Nine, she felt that she had been a burden. She had never thought that she would be able to reach this stage. At this moment, everyone in the Realm Sea, except for Lin Yu's camp, was dead. And of the 4 major families of the primitive continent and the people of the 5 regions, only Bai Jiu, who had joined Lin Yu, was left. If she hadn't listened to Qin at the beginning and chose to join Lin Yu, she might have been among the dead now. Captain, thank you. Yama cupped her fists and thanked him. Lin Yu just nodded casually. Stepping into the air, he looked into the distance. Over there, the 4 echelons of the Qinyan domain, the strongest opponents in this echelon battle, were ready to attack. Lin Yu knew that the real battle had just begun. But all of a sudden, Bai Xiaoli's warning voice rang out. Someone is coming very strong. From Bai Xiaoli's words, the one who could be described as strong was naturally not any of the echelons present. The only explanation was that the powerhouses on the divine ranking list had come. Before Lin Yu could speak, a man walked over from the distance. This man was dressed in luxurious clothes, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. His arrogant temperament made Lin Yu's heart tremble uncontrollably. This person, Lin Yu's intuition told him that this was the strongest person he had ever met. In fact, the moment this person appeared, the system immediately activated the self-reset plan. Once Lin Yu encountered a life and death crisis, the system would automatically reset Lin Yu's body to save his life. The last time it reset itself was the moment before Lin Yu stepped into the altar. And the last time was when he faced the Dark Priest. The powerhouse who appeared in front of him was in existence on the same level as the Dark Priest and Bai Xiaoli. And Lin Yu, in addition to the sense of danger, there were 2 other feelings. They were familiarity and disgust. Who is he? Lin Yu was puzzled. This person gave him a familiar feeling, but he was sure that he had never seen him before. And that person slowly walked over from the air. His figure was somewhat illusory. Just as Bai Xiaoli said, the top powerhouses of the Spirit King realm and above were unable to enter the 10 square world. They could only come with their divine sense. And even if Bai Xiaoli did not deliberately explain, Lin Yu also knew that although Venerable Wuya, who was at the Spirit King realm, was also a powerhouse on the divine ranking list, their ability was not enough to enter the 10 square world. Those who could enter should be at least at the late stage of the Spirit King realm, or even higher. What realm is he at? Peak of the Spirit King realm. After hearing Bai Xiaoli's answer, Lin Yu nodded. But then he heard Bai Xiaoli say, "I'm referring to the power of his divine sense, not his actual body." This sentence made Lin Yu's breathing quicken. Just a divine sense had the combat power of the peak of the Spirit King realm? Then what kind of terrifying realm was this person's actual body? Let's go, Bai Xiaoli reminded Lin Yu. But the latter was locked in by the other party's gaze. "I finally see you. You really came back." The other party's voice transmitted, and his figure approached Lin Yu. The 2 of them were separated by a distance of 10 feet. Bai Xiaoli knew that it was too late to escape. She hid in Lin Yu's body and did not speak, but she still reminded Lin Yu to be careful. "Who are you?" Lin Yu asked. That person's eyes were slightly curved. It was a smile, but Lin Yu felt a sense of contempt in that smile. Lin Yu stared at the other party's gaze, only to see the other party slowly open his mouth. His lazy voice had a hint of mockery as he said, "My little brother, you actually forgot me. My little brother, you actually forgot me." These words were like a bolt of lightning that exploded in Lin Yu's mind. Not only Lin Yu, but even Bai Xiaoli was stunned. This invincible expert who suddenly appeared said that Lin Yu was his little brother? "While you weren't in the sky region, everyone missed you very much, little brother." The other party stretched out a hand toward Lin Yu. "My little brother, come back to the sky region. Come back to my side, and I will treat you well, as long as you hand over the God King's token." Chapter 832. Lin Yu's mind spun quickly. Heaven Domain. Emperor. He immediately thought of the other party's identity. No wonder. No wonder a divine thought that descended to 10 square world could have the strength of the peak of Spirit King realm. The man in front of him who claimed to be his brother was actually number 1 on the god list, the strongest in the 3 realms and 5 regions, the 6-winged divine king. Impossible. Why would the 6-winged divine king descend to 10 square world? Why would he say such strange words to him? Lin Yu's mind buzzed. He remembered the 10 women back then. She told him that after leaving the Sky Bridge and the Sky Desert universe, he would know the answer. But when he left, he saw the 10 women coming to pick him up. However, the other party was discovered by a mysterious force and brought back. That 10 women told Lin Yu not to go to Heaven Domain. So, it was because of the 6-winged divine king. Lin Yu came to a realization, but he was even more confused about his past. The demon god of realm, Sea, seemed to know him. The dark priest also seemed to know him. Even at this moment, the 6-winged divine king personally said that he was his younger brother. If that was the case, why did Lin Yu have an instinctive feeling of disgust for the other party? He trusted his intuition. Lin Yu retreated. Even if the 6-winged divine king, this kind of supreme existence, threw an olive branch to him, Lin Yu still retreated. The 6-winged divine king also put down his hand when Lin Yu retreated. It seemed that he didn't have much sincerity in the beginning. In other words, from the beginning, he was just trying out. He had already anticipated Lin Yu's move. My younger brother, you still aren't willing to forgive me? The 6-winged divine king slowly opened his mouth, his eyes carrying a bit of domineering and killing intent. But if you dare to run, your companions will all die. This was a warning. Once Lin Yu retreated again, then the 6-winged divine king would attack Qin Yi and the others. You left for so long, hiding from me for so long, only to bring back this trash. The 6-winged divine king didn't even look at Qin Yi and the others. Even though they had defeated all the sequences of the primitive continent, they were now looking at Lin Yu. But in front of the 6-winged divine king, they still did not even have the qualifications to be taken seriously. Let's go somewhere else, Lin Yu said slowly. His body shifted, and he appeared 1,000 miles away. The 6-winged divine king was still in front of him. He was even faster than Lin Yu. My little brother, you are still not ruthless enough. The 6-winged divine king smiled faintly. He knew that Lin Yu was unwilling to implicate his companions, so he chose to distance himself from the battlefield. At this moment, outside the altar city, he watched as Lin Yu disappeared. Qin Yi felt a sharp pain in her heart. This was the first time he had seen Lin Yu do something like this. She understood why Lin Yu did this. The opponent this time was very strong. They were so strong that Lin Yu was unable to control the situation. That was why he had changed the battlefield beforehand. You must come back safely. Qin Yi burst into tears. She clenched her jade-like hands tightly. She began to hate herself for being weak. Even though her cultivation had increased at a terrifying speed, she still couldn't help Lin Yu. The opponent Lin Yu was going to face was stronger than they had imagined. At this moment, not only Qin Yi, but even Lin Xiu, Lin Yuan, and the others had tied up Nangong Tian after dealing with everyone in the primitive continent. But these people didn't have the slightest joy of victory. Captain Bai Jiu's breathing quickened. He also saw the man who suddenly appeared. But Bai Jiu couldn't see through that person's cultivation either. It was as if the gap between him and the other party was several dimensions. He had no right to know the other party's cultivation. You still have the mood to think about others? Suddenly, the 4 sequences of the heaven region appeared. That kid seems to be in big trouble. Interesting, the sequence battle this time is so interesting. Qi Lu of the heaven region, Wang Jie, Duke Zhu, and Fallen appeared at the same time. Fallen looked into the distance. The wind and clouds their change color. 2 incomparably tyrannical forces began to collide. The fluctuations of a battle came. Even the 4 of them, the strongest sequences, found it hard to imagine what was going on with the man who suddenly appeared. Is the other force Lin Yu? At this moment, Wang Jie already believed Fallen's words. Lin Yu could erupt with such powerful strength and start a battle with his opponent. In that case, his strength was indeed stronger than everyone present here. Brother, you used the God King token well, but it's a pity that your foundation is too weak. The six-winged Divine King sneered as his gaze landed on Lin Yu's right arm. At this moment, Lin Yu's right arm had completely shattered into a bloody mist. Just now, he had used a hundredfold five elements Dao seal palm. This palm strike was a hundredfold attack of his current triple fusion 10,000 spirits realm. Unfortunately, this palm strike could only barely block his opponent's casual strike. As for his arm, because it was unable to withstand such a powerful force, it directly turned into a bloody mist. Time reset, and his arm returned to normal. Bai Xiaoli, who was in Lin Yu's mind, was also shocked. It seemed that Lin Yu still had many trump cards that she didn't know about. At least at this moment, this instantaneous recovery ability and the hundredfold palm strike just now had already reached the peak of the Spirit King realm. It was a pity that the opponent this time was too strong. Was the God King token? Lin Yu narrowed his eyes and healed his injuries. However, his space-time value had also decreased by a lot. Haha, the six-winged Divine King suddenly laughed. Father, do you still think that what you did was right? Lin Yu didn't know what the other party was talking about. He only heard the six-winged Divine King continue. You gave him the most precious God King token in the Sky region, but now, he doesn't even know what the God King token is. If you were willing to give it to me from the beginning, Father, you could have lived for a few more years. It's a pity that you are blind. I'm clearly more outstanding than him. I'm clearly the best candidate for the God King, but you chose him. Shut up. Lin Yu subconsciously said this. His mind felt a sharp pain, as though a sealed memory was gradually awakening. What? You remember? So what if Father gave you the God King token? The six-winged Divine King took a step and appeared in front of Lin Yu. Lin Yu wanted to raise his hand to resist, but his speed was too different from his opponent's. Even though the other party had descended with his his divine will was too strong. His attack was no different from a Spirit King realm expert. Lin Yu's raised hand was grabbed by the other party. With a forceful tug, it was broken by the six-winged Divine King. If it were you in the past, perhaps I would have needed to come with my true body. But the current you is too weak to withstand a single blow. The six-winged Divine King did not stop as he tapped Lin Yu's glabella with his finger. When we take back what belongs to me, we will use the God King token to unlock the nine-tailed celestial fox's true body. When that happens, we will truly be the 12th core god. Chapter 833. His voice was close to madness. It was as though after meeting Lin Yu, this person had deliberately suppressed his emotions. And now, this agitated emotion could no longer be suppressed. But in the next moment, a white light flashed between Lin Yu's eyebrows. Bai Xiaoli made her move. She gave Lin Yu a speed that exceeded his current realm. This speed allowed him to dodge the six-winged Divine King's attack. And at this moment, the latter's face was filled with astonishment. The nine-tailed Divine Fox's divine sense is in your body? 100 feet away, Lin Yu stabilized his body. As for the six-winged Divine King, he had already entered a state of madness. A strange smile appeared on his face. My little brother, why is your luck always so good? Divine King's order, nine-tailed Divine Fox, these things should belong to me. He attacked again, and at this moment, Bai Xiaoli's voice sounded in Lin Yu's mind. Give me control of your body. Trust me. At this moment, Lin Yu chose to trust the other party. Just as the six-winged Divine King attacked, Bai Xiaoli, who was in Lin Yu's body, completely took control of the body. And on Lin Yu's face, a strange smile appeared. Hee, kid, it's my turn to play with you. This voice came from Lin Yu's mouth. However, it was neither human nor demon, and at the same time, the six-winged Divine King knew that the other party was no longer Lin Yu, but the ancient Demon King sealed by the 10 great sacred grounds, the nine-tailed Divine Fox. The two of them punched out at the same time. This punch caused the sky to change color. The entire sky seemed to have been split into two. Everyone in the Altar City felt a tremor. The four people from the Heaven region wanted to take down Qin Yi and the rest first, but their attention was attracted by this tremor. Damn it, this battle is no longer at the level of the sequence battle. There's something wrong with this sequence battle. Lin Yu is problematic, and that person who suddenly appeared is also problematic. Even the top echelons of the Qingyun realm started to speak hoarsely. The first clash between the six-winged Divine King and the nine-tailed Celestial Fox had already affected both the upper and lower levels of the 10-directional world. The heavens trembled and the earth shattered, even the outside world of 10-square world. At the same time, the heavenly god-ranking experts guarding the core region of the sequencing monarch city also sensed the energy fluctuations that were about to spill out of the 10-direction world. The divine priest of light, the divine priest of darkness, and the wind and lightning gods. The patriarchs of the four great clans. There were also Realm C's 7 great heavenly deity list experts. They were originally all closing their eyes, waiting for their family's echelon members to come out. But at this moment, everyone suddenly opened their eyes. The power of the Spirit King realm. Impossible. Why would there be Spirit King realm fluctuations in the 10-square world? Even the Divine Priest of Light and Divine Priest of Darkness couldn't help but stand up at this moment. What happened inside? Venerable Wuya immediately shouted. Not only him, but also Venerable Zixia, who was related to Qin Yi and the female King of Hell. The patriarchs of the four families looked at each other and then at the Divine Priest of Light. The 10-direction world is the place opened by the Divine King. May I ask, Divine Priest of Light, do you know what happened inside? They were sure that the battle fluctuations in the 10-direction world didn't belong to the sequence battle. Even the energy that surged out just now. Even with their cultivation, they were still somewhat shocked. It seemed that not only were there Spirit King realm experts, but they were also peak Spirit King realm experts. And it wasn't just one, but two. Otherwise, why would there be such a huge battle fluctuation? But facing the questions from the four families and Venerable Realm C, the Divine Priest of Light only narrowed his eyes and didn't say anything. He didn't know what happened, but the 10-direction world was opened by the Divine King. If something happened, the six-winged Divine King would stop it immediately. But the six-winged Divine King didn't do anything. This also meant that the six-winged Divine King had tacitly agreed to what was happening inside. With the Divine Priest of Light's intelligence, he naturally wouldn't do anything to stop the six-winged Divine King. Wait and see. Everything is under the Divine King's control. The Divine Priest of Light directly mentioned the six-winged Divine King. After that, he continued to meditate. There were only 20 hours left before the 10-direction world closed. In another 20 hours, the people inside would be automatically teleported out. If there were any problems, it wouldn't be too late to deal with it then. Seeing this, the four families didn't say anything, but they still looked worried. Tian please don't let anything happen to you. The patriarch of the Nangong family shouted. The old patriarch was worried. Obviously, Nangong Tian was too important to the Nangong family. He represented the future of the Nangong family. When the Nangong family was declining, they needed a top genius to support the future of the Nangong family. And Nangong Tian was the best candidate. Patriarch, don't worry. Tian strength is comparable to the echelons of the Qian domain. Moreover, he has our Nangong family's invincible superpower, Devour Starry Sky. Among the echelons, how many of them can resist the power of Devour Starry Sky? After Deputy Patriarch Nangong finished speaking, Patriarch Nangong thought of Devour Starry Sky and relaxed a little. You're right. Tian is invincible with Devour Starry Sky. I'm afraid we should be worried about the other echelons. Patriarch Nangong, what do you mean? Is the echelon of the Donghuang family weaker than your Nangong Tian? That's right. Bei Moi, and the echelon of the Western Ming Kingdom are all top geniuses. The four families scolded one after another. As for Realm C's side, they were even more worried. However, the two honorables of the Emperor Fallen Sea region and the Xianming Sea region weren't that worried. It's the middle and lower sea region that should be afraid. It's not our turn. That's right. We know Lei Dong and Shimen Wushua's abilities. Emperor Luo's sage smiled. Venerable Xian Ming also chuckled. Emperor Luo's sage is too kind. Your demon god Gui Xiao, demon god De Luo, and demon god Jiang Yin are probably much stronger than my disciple Lei Dong. Don't let my disciple suffer in the hands of the three of them. Hee, our upper sea region is on the same side. How can he suffer? It's the other two groups. Emperor Luo's sage glanced at the 5 honorables of the middle sea region and lower sea region and remained silent. But the disdain in his eyes was already very obvious. They are just there to accompany him. Why do you care about them? Brother Di Luo is too much. Venerable Xian Ming sneered. He also looked down on the middle sea region and lower sea region. In the middle sea region, Venerable Nine Nether, who belonged to Lin Xiao, also snorted. Bai Wu Chang is a disciple that I personally taught. Naturally, he won't lose to you. Chapter 834. White impermanence is indeed not bad, but there is also Lin Xiao who is dragging him down. I remember that he entered without being in the same camp as white impermanence. Venerable Xian Ming said. Hearing this, Venerable Nine Nether's old face twitched. This Lin Xiao is arrogant and conceited. If he drags white impermanence down, I will teach you a lesson. In another direction, hearing all kinds of flattery from the middle and upper sea areas, Venerable Zixia and Venerable Wuya's faces also turned ugly. Crow, do you think your 2 sequences will be able to survive? Can you not call me Crow? After all, you and I have a... Shut up. Who has a relationship with you? Venerable Zixia's charming face was angry, but she didn't realize that she had revealed a secret. I'm asking you about the sequences. How would I know? My 2 sequences don't listen to me. Venerable Wuya was also helpless. You are really as useless as before. Venerable Zixia took her anger out on Venerable Wuya. She didn't really care about the sequences of the Boundless Sea, but because she saw that her 2 sequences had allied with the sequences of the Boundless Sea. If something happened to Lin Yu and Lin Yuan, wouldn't it also affect Qin Yi and the Queen of Hell? Who are you calling useless? Do you want to go to my room now and try? Venerable Wuya was also anxious. He was already a little worried about Lin Yu because of the movements in the 10 Square World. In addition, the group of bastards in the upper and middle sea areas were mocking and ridiculing him. He was already very nervous, and now he was being scolded by Venerable Zixia. Try it. I want to see what ability you have. Venerable Zixia's mood at this moment was actually the same as Venerable Wuya's. After her angry voice fell, she waved her sleeves and left. It seemed that she was angry, but in fact, it made Venerable Wuya's eyes shine. Was she hinting at him? The atmosphere was so solemn now, it was good to try. Venerable Wuya stepped on the air and chased after Venerable Zixia. Don't run if you have the ability. When everyone saw this, they shook their heads helplessly. Who will win this time? Who knows? This sequence battle feels very different from the previous ones. Didn't you see? Even those experts on the Heavenly God list are fighting. That's right. I just saw Realm C's 2 supreme experts leave the place to have a one-on-one duel. I wonder who won and who lost. Inside the 10 Directions world, the fluctuations of the battle gradually stopped. Kid, is that all you've got? Lin Yu's body was constantly damaged, but Bai Xiaoli did not feel any pain. Instead, with the help of the system, the damaged body was rapidly recovering. On the other hand, the 6-winged Divine King. Originally, it was just a strand of divine consciousness. Now, that was facing the 9-tailed celestial fox, and Lin Yu at the same time, its battle prowess began to weaken. While his battle prowess was weakening, the restrictions in the 10 Square World were also strengthening. Looks like you've concealed your aura. Otherwise, the restrictions left behind by the ancient Almighty in the 10 Great Holy Lands would be enough to strangle your divine consciousness. Bai Xiaoli sneered. At this moment, Lin Yu's body had completely merged with the Heavenly Fox's shadow. He was now the 9-tailed celestial fox. 9-tailed celestial fox, you've got some skills. The six-winged divine king smiled faintly and stood with his hands behind his back. I hope that when my real body descends, you'll have the same confidence. Noisy, if my real body can break free, I'll eat you. Baishali snorted and wanted to attack, but the six-winged divine king did not plan to fight anymore. My little brother, you can hide for a while, but you can't hide forever. Big brother will wait for you in the heaven region. Huh? The six-winged divine king's divine consciousness slowly dissipated, but his domineering and threatening laughter still echoed in the sky. At the same time the six-winged divine king left, the restrictions in the 10-square world had already swept over. Seeing this, Baishali immediately removed her state and returned the control of her body to Linyu. Phew! Linyu slowly exhaled. His body was still injured. It looked like Baishali was unable to control the system perfectly. Linyu operated the space-time value, and all the injuries in his body were healed. However, his mind was still unable to calm down. The restrictions in the 10-square world swept over his surroundings, but it did not seem to find any clues, and then disappeared again. As for Linyu, he clenched his fists tightly. If not for Baishali's divine consciousness increasing his combat power, he would have died in the hands of the six-winged divine king. Kid, you still have a long way to go. Don't be discouraged. Baishali was worried that Linyu would be dispirited because of this battle. Then such a good foundation would be wasted. Don't worry. Linyu's lips curled up. He had fought with the six-winged divine king. It did not matter if the other party was his brother or not. What he represented was the highest combat power in the 3 realms and 5 regions. Even if it was just a divine consciousness, he had fought with the strongest of the 3 realms and 5 regions. His thirst for power had reached a point where it could not be increased any further. What exactly is the Divine King's order? In the past, I was worthy of the six-winged Divine King's true body to fight. What was that like? Linyu muttered to himself, but there was no time to think too much. He rushed back in the direction of the altar city, and in Linyu's body, without him noticing at all, a golden rune appeared on one of his blood vessels. This rune surged with astonishing power as if it was about to awaken. Above the altar city, Lin Xiao, Lin Yuan, Bai Jiao, and Queen of Hell were defeated one after another. The only one who was still persevering was Qin Yi. This woman is a little interesting. Her injuries are more serious than the others, but she can still hold on for so long. Is it because you are soft-hearted after seeing a woman? Wang Jie sneered. Duke Ju shook his head helplessly. I want to be soft-hearted. After all, such a beautiful woman is hard to find in our Tian region. It's a pity that she seems to be waiting for Linyu to return and is unwilling to give up. Duke Ju slowly approached Qin Yi. If you are willing to be my woman, I can spare your life. Get lost. Qin Yi only said one word. Duke Ju's face instantly became angry, and he slapped her. With a bang, Qin Yi's delicate body flew out and smashed into the wall. Flying stones rolled. Then go to hell. Duke Ju smiled disdainfully, but Qin Yi still climbed out of the ruins of the wall with difficulty. Interesting. Duke Ju moved and appeared above the ruins, stepping on a huge rock. The huge rock directly pressed on Qin Yi's body. Stop. Lin Xiao, Lin Yuan, and the others were furious. But Wang Jie's palm fell, and the energy directly suppressed the others to the point that they couldn't move. Okay, stop playing. The battle over there is already over. Seeing that Duke Ju was still playing, Yin Luo couldn't help but remind him. Chapter 835. I wonder who won. It's best if both of them die together so that we don't have to deal with them. If it was a battle of that level, just now, I'm afraid that the 4 of us together wouldn't be a match for them. Qi Lu, Wang Jie, and Duke Ju said one after another. After Duke Ju finished speaking, he still stared at Qin Yi under the stone with great interest. Woman, I'll give you one more chance. Linyu might already be dead. Is there any point in waiting for him? He won't die. Qin Yi spat out a large mouthful of blood. She walked out of the Wangxian sect with Linyu and watched Linyu break free from the reset of 100,000 years. Step by step, he walked to where he was today. How could she give up on him so easily? I was Lin Yu's woman when I was alive, and I'm also Lin Yu's woman when I die. Qin Yi's bright eyes flashed with a deep and firm gaze. This gaze made Duke Ju completely angry. He was jealous of Lin Yu. Then you will die with him. Duke Ju raised his foot, energy swirling around the soles of his feet, and he kicked down. Lin Yuan, Lin Xiao, Bai Jiao, and Yama roared, but Wang Jie alone was enough to suppress all of them, even though the four of them had burned their cultivation at this moment, wanting to break through their limits to escape and save Qin Yi. But they couldn't do it. Wang Jie was an expert at the peak of the myriad spirit realm and was the strongest sequence in this sequence battle. Whether it was his cultivation or the heaven-grade myriad spirit seal between his eyebrows, he crushed them too much. Big brother Lin Yu, I can die, but you have to live. Qin Yi closed her eyes. Duke Ju's foot landed, but all of a sudden, while his foot was still in midair, a figure had already appeared beside him. Time seemed to stop, and everyone saw that Duke Ju's face was covered by his palm. The speed at which this person appeared was so terrifying that when everyone came back to their senses, they could already feel the power of the palm erupting on Duke Ju's face. 10 times 5 elements, Tao, seal palm. 20 times 5 elements, Tao, seal palm. 30 times 5 elements, Tao, seal palm. 40 times 5 elements, Tao, seal palm. 50-fold 5 elements, Tao, seal palm. It was so fast and so powerful that it made Duke Ju's terrified face and body split apart. His neck was directly broken, and under the 5 elements Tao seal palm, his head smashed into the city walls one after another. Blood splattered everywhere. Everyone subconsciously held their breaths. Duke Ju was dead, and his head was separated from his body. They were stunned in place. Only the young man blasted away the rubble and rose up with Qin Yi in his arms. I'm here. Lin Yu spoke slowly as he activated his time and space value, healing Qin Yi's injuries immediately. Are you coming down? Even though she had recovered from her injuries, Qin Yi still shook her head. Her eyes were filled with tears, and although there were still traces of blood on her perfect face, she still looked exceptionally moving. Qin Yi buried her face in Lin Yu's chest, feeling the warmth and smell of Lin Yu. After confirming that she wasn't dreaming, she jumped down. There were still 3 strong enemies in front of him. She knew that now was not the time to be affectionate with Lin Yu. At this very moment, Qi Lu, Wang Jie, and Fallen were already breathing much faster. What was going on just now? He killed Duke Ju in one move. Fallen, you're right, we're not his match. I didn't expect this brat to win. The 3 of them already had no confidence in Lin Yu. At this moment, when they wanted to retreat, Lin Yu waved his hand and Death God Transit erupted, cutting off the pressure on them. Lin Yu's camp regained their freedom. So strong, Wang Jie narrowed his eyes. He had already used all his strength to suppress 4 myriad spirit realm experts and a peak 4 symbols realm expert. But Lin Yu actually broke his pressure with a casual move. This person was not someone he could deal with. Not only did he win the battle just now, but he also didn't seem to use up much stamina. How is this possible? Fallen, it seems that you're right. Qi Lu's words had already made the other 2 understand that this brat was not a match for him, even if the 3 of them worked together. Lin Yu's gaze landed on the 3 of them, no longer planning to let them leave. But at this moment, outside 10 Direction World, the Divine Priest of Light received a voice transmission. Just as the voice transmission arrived, the Divine Priest of Light stood up. The sequence battle is over. After saying that, everyone was shocked again. At present, there were still 18 hours to the time set at the beginning. But why did the light suddenly end the sequence battle? Before the 4 patriarchs of the 4 families could ask, 10 Direction World began to shake. Immediately, everyone saw that the sealed 10 Direction World opened again. Inside 10 Direction World, Lin Yu originally planned to make a move, but suddenly saw 10 Direction World open. When the 10 Orientations World opened, the light of teleportation appeared on everyone who was still alive. That was close. Otherwise, I might have died in this brat's hands. Hee hee, you scared me. Brat, come to Heaven Domain and find us if you have the guts. Lin Yu, next time, you won't be so lucky. Qi Lu, Wang Jie, and Fallen were teleported out of Ten Direction World at the same time. As for Lin Xiao and the others who had survived, they did not have the courage to fight with these people again, and naturally could not say anything. Only Lin Yu shrugged. It was a pity that he did not take 3 storage rings. Given a little more time, he did not mind killing all of them. But Lin Yu also felt that something was wrong. Ten Direction World should have opened earlier. And although there were restrictions left behind by the ancient almighty in Ten Direction World, no one could control it. But the person who could open Ten Direction World was the six-winged Divine King. Lin Yu didn't need to think to know who was behind this strange behavior. Forget it. Lin Yu's 5 fingers formed a claw and locked Nangong Tian in the storage ring. He heaved a sigh, knowing that after this trip, he would face a greater danger. After all, in Ten Direction World, the six-winged Divine King could only enter with his divine sense, and he was already unable to resist. If they were outside, facing the six-winged Divine King's invincible true body, he would not be able to resist. Thinking of this, when Xin Yi and the others were teleported out, Lin Yu activated the space-time value and delayed his teleportation by 10 breaths. This scene was noticed by Bai Xiaoli. She was also shocked. Could it be that you really have the God King's token in your body that can actually ignore the restrictions here? But Lin Yu did not know what the God King's token was. His trump card was the system. Lin Yu activated Azura and left a not heaven mark here. Back then, Lin Yu relied on this move to go to Sky Desert Universe and was blocked by Ling Xiao and pushed back to the Abyss of Despair. But he used this move to return to Sky Desert. It could be said that this was a type of teleportation array, and it was Lin Yu's exclusive teleportation array. With one of the 8 Great Void Azura's moves, it reversed the space-time of 2 places and allowed them to switch back and forth. This was the only place in the 3 realms and 5 regions that Lin Yu knew that could restrain the six-winged Divine King. So he left a mark here. When necessary, Lin Yu could return here. It was considered a life-saving trump card. After doing this, the teleportation of Ten Direction World arrived again. The system could delay it, but it could not really stop the teleportation here. Very soon, Lin Yu also appeared in front of everyone. We won. Qin Yi immediately stepped forward and stood beside Lin Yu. And below, Venerable Zi Xia and Venerable Wuya, who returned after leaving for 2 hours, also saw the two of them. You're back. Lin Yu, Lin Xiao, it's good that you're not dead. Venerable Wuya already felt that the rankings were not too important. These 2 people were the future hope of the Boundless Sea region. They couldn't die just because of a sequence battle. As for Venerable Zi Xia, although her face was a little flushed at the moment, she still exhaled deeply. Seeing Queen Yama and Qin Yi coming over, she nodded with relief. I didn't expect these 2 brats to still be alive. Why do I feel that Lin Yuan's aura has strengthened a lot? Everyone was talking about it. The 4 major families, the Upper Sea region and the Middle Sea region, were all waiting for their people to appear. The Light Divine Priest's face was gloomy to the extreme. Because of what happened inside, Qi Lu and the other 2 had already explained it to him. Divine Priest, we didn't get first place. Qi Lu and the other 2 knelt on the ground. The faces of the Light Divine Priest and the Wind and Thunder gods were extremely gloomy. The Dark Divine Priest on the side greeted them with a smile. It's okay, just work hard next time. He glanced in the direction of Lin Yu from the corner of his eyes. With that lord here, how could you guys win? But no one could see his thoughts, but the faces of Qi Lu and the other 2 were grateful to the Dark Divine Priest. With the Dark Divine Priest speaking for them, at least their punishment could be reduced. In the Middle Sea region, the venerables of the Vast Sea region and 9 Nether Sea region only saw Lin Xiao for a long time, and the 10 Square World had begun to close. It meant that Lin Yu, who came out last, was the only living person inside, and those who didn't come out, the restrictions of the 10 Square World couldn't find their vitality and naturally wouldn't come out again. Wait, why are you alone? Where is Wu Chong? Nine Nether Venerable asked. Lin Xiao said coldly. Dead. Hearing this, Nine Nether Venerable's old face twitched and was about to get angry, but after perceiving the myriad soul realm on Lin Xiao's body, his face changed again. Well, I said that you're more reliable than Wu Chong. Lin Xiao, congratulations on your breakthrough. Our Nine Nether Sea region will rely on you in the future. After Nine Nether Venerable's face changed, the Venerable of the vast sea region on the side was already dead. 3 lives kill. Sure, Rulai is dead. Nine Nether, what did your disciple do inside? Why did our 3 lives kill and Sure Rulai die? After vast expanse, Venerable reprimanded him. Nine Nether Venerable knew that Lin Xiao was now in a myriad soul realm. Then he had officially entered the ranks of the top sequence. How could such a good seedling be bullied by others? Old dog, vast expanse. What does your disciple's death have to do with our Lin Xiao? Not only the vast expansy region, but also the venerables of the upper sea region. Lei Dong, Shimin Wu Xue, and 9 Phoenix didn't come out. Our Emperor Fallen Sea region too, Gui, Xiao, Big Luo, Jiangyan, it's impossible that they all died inside. They looked at the lower sea region. Chaos Demon Venerable naturally understood that if Lei Dong and the others couldn't survive, then his domineering blade, and naturally wouldn't have any hope. And Lin Yu and domineering blade Gu already had a grudge. Now that Lin Yu came out, domineering blade Gu, you must have died inside. Chaos Demon Venerable snorted coldly, waved his sleeves, and left. Chapter 836. As for Xian Ming and Venerable Di Luo, they went to the lower sea region camp. Lin Yu, what happened inside? Did the two of you encounter a fortuitous encounter? You actually broke through to the 10,000 spirit realm. Yama too, you're just 1 step away from the 10,000 spirit realm. Good. When I return, I'll find Xian demons and even earth demons to help you condense the 10,000 spirit seal. Venerable Zixia was overjoyed, but soon 2 murderous auras descended. Xian Ming, Di Luo, what's the meaning of this? Venerable Wuya stood in front of Lin Yu, blocking Xian Ming and Venerable Di Luo. Lin Yuan, Qin Yi, Yama, what happened inside? Give me an explanation. Why did the sequence of our upper sea region all die inside? Venerable Xian Ming and Venerable Di Luo asked in a questioning tone, and their spearheads were naturally directed at the few who came out. They also observed that Lin Yuan, Qin Yi, and Yama all had a great improvement in their cultivation, except for Lin Yu and the others whose cultivation couldn't be seen. This was even more unusual. They had never heard of any fortuitous encounter in the 10-direction world. Where did the increase in cultivation come from? Their deaths, being threatened. Lin Yu slowly opened his mouth. Venerable Wuya was afraid that Lin Yu would be wronged, so he reminded him, you don't have to care about them. Life and death in the sequence battle is up to the heavens. There's no need to explain to them. Hearing this, Lin Yu also smiled. That's exactly what I wanted. If they died, then they died. What do I need to explain to you? Boom. Presumptuous. Xian Ming and Venerable Di Luo's old faces shook. Venerable Wuya also felt a chill down his spine. Kid, you just don't answer. Why did you anger these 2 old guys? Just as the 2 venerables were about to get angry, Venerable Zixia also stood beside Venerable Wuya. Sister Zixia, are you here to help me? If it wasn't for your better performance just now, I wouldn't have bothered with you. Reverend Zixia said softly. When Reverend Wuya heard this, he couldn't help but smile confidently. Thinking back, this was indeed the most successful performance he'd had in his 10,000 years of cultivation. Tianar, Huanger, where are you? On the Realm Sea side, swords were drawn and bows drawn, while on the primitive continent side, aside from Baijio, all of the people from the 5 regions had died inside. However, their movements were naturally not as intense as those of the 4 great clans. At the very least, Baijio was left in the 5 regions. But the 4 great clans, not a single one was left. Clan leader Nangong spat out a mouthful of blood. The clan leaders of Dongwang, Shi Ming, and Moi were also dumbfounded. Their echelon, their hope for the future, none of them had come out. This also meant that these top prodigies from the various large clans were the future heirs that they had spent countless resources to nurture. In the sequence battle, all of them died in the Ten Directions world. And because of the deaths of these people, those who survived became the target of public criticism. The four great clans immediately pointed their spears at the heavenly region. As for the three people from the heavenly region, they also couldn't say anything. They couldn't say that the people from the primitive continent had died in the hands of Linyu, and even they had almost died in the hands of Linyu. Moreover, Duke Ju had been killed by Linyu. If it weren't for the timely arrival of the teleportation array, the people from the heavenly region probably wouldn't have been spared. The three people from the heavenly region couldn't say such words. They were top prodigies and had their own dignity. Divine Priest, the echelon of our four great clans, are all dead. The heavenly region has to give us an explanation for this matter. The clan leader of the Dongwang family was the first to speak. As for the other clans, they also stood out at this time and pointed their spears at the heavenly region. They didn't think that Lin Yu and the others from the lower sea region had the ability to kill the echelon of the four great clans. The only ones who had the ability to kill were the experts of the heavenly region. Divine Priest, say something. The Divine Priest of Light's gaze fell on Lin Yu. I'm afraid we still have to ask them about this matter. After saying that, everyone looked at Lin Yu and the others. After all, the Divine Priest of Light already knew what had happened inside. Even the three people from the heavenly region who survived had told him about the battle between the mysterious expert and Lin Yu. It was just that the Divine Priest of Light couldn't guess who the mysterious expert was. But now, the people from the heavenly region had eaten the dead cat. How could they just let it go? However, even if the Divine Priest of Light knew what had happened inside, but the others didn't know, even when the Divine Priest of Light deliberately led them to suspect Lin Yu. The clan leader of the Dongwang family's face was already extremely ugly. Divine Priest of Light, do you take us for fools? How could he believe that an echelon from the lower sea region had the ability to kill the echelon of the four great clans, especially Lin Yu and the others? Even if they had broken through the 10,000 soul realm, their cultivation was too weak. It was probably extremely difficult to deal with one of the four great clans. Not to mention killing the four great clans. Divine Priest of Light, although I'm old, I won't believe everything you say. The clan leader of the Nangong family was the first to vomit blood. At this moment, his body was trembling as he questioned the Divine Priest of Light. The Divine Priest of Light's face also began to turn pale. Lin Yu, tell us what happened inside. Thunder came. Facing the questioning of the Divine Priest of Light, even Venerable Wuya and Venerable Zixia became nervous. What did this kid do inside? Why did Venerable Xianming and Venerable Di Luo find trouble with him? Even the Divine Priest of Light spoke personally. Venerable Wuya smiled apologetically and cupped his fists. Divine Priest of Light, is there any misunderstanding? Our Lin Yu is still a child. That's right. How can our echelon's battle strength be compared to yours? If you want to ask, are we inferior to the echelon of the heavenly region? Venerable Zixia also chimed in. Presumptuous. I'm asking Lin Yu. The Divine Priest of Light naturally wasn't willing to confront these old foxes. After all, he also knew that these old foxes were experts on the Sky God list. Moreover, they were old and cunning. It was impossible to get anything out of them. Lin Yu, the Divine Priest of Light, is asking you a question. Why aren't you answering? He's young, but he's got guts. Divine Priest, I think this kid isn't giving you any face. Venerable Xianming and Venerable Di Luo also began to add insult to injury. Seeing Lin Yu's hesitation, the crowd also became suspicious. Could it really have something to do with this kid? That's impossible. This kid doesn't seem to have such powerful combat strength. Could he have used some kind of trick? That's even more impossible. The four great clans are geniuses. How could they fall for a trick? The crowd started to speculate. The clan leaders of the four great clans also fixed their gazes on Lin Yu. The Divine Priest of Light's aura spread out, and landed on Lin Yu with a sense of oppression. I don't know. Don't scare me. Lin Yu took a step back. Fear was written all over his face. The crowd immediately understood what was going on. He didn't answer earlier because he was scared stiff. Now, when Lin Yu reacted, it was the real answer. You people from the Sky region killed people indiscriminately. Why are you asking me? Lin Yu pointed directly at the 3 sequences of the Sky region. At this moment, the 3 of them were stunned. Just as they were about to speak, Lin Yu spoke again. You said that you didn't care about killing people from the lower sea region. That's why we were able to survive. However, there are people from the primitive continent, the upper sea region, and the 5 regions. Lin Yu's voice was heard. He was starting to cry, although he didn't really cry. However, his tone contained 30% fear, 30% anger, and 40% innocence. Everyone was shocked by this scene. We misunderstood him. Yeah, how could it be Lin Yu? Are your brains filled with feces? The sequences of the 4 great families of the primitive continent are so powerful. How could Lin Yu beat them? It's obvious that it was done by the sequences of the Sky region. The Sky region has gone too far. Not only did they kill people from the 4 great families, but the Divine Priest of Light also took the lead to wrongly accuse good people. Lin Yu, don't be afraid. Our eyes are sharp. Everyone shouted. Lin Yu calmed down a little, but that feeling of shock was still imprinted in the eyes of others. They didn't know that Lin Yu's main business was Film Emperor. Enchantment, Queen of Hell, Lin Xiao, Lin Yuan, and Bai Jiao. These 5 teammates of Lin Yu also looked at him directly at this moment. They didn't know that their captain had this side to him. And just now, when the Divine Priest of Light began to attack, they were ready to advance and retreat together at any time. But they didn't expect that this attack would be easily solved by Lin Yu. Divine Priest of Light, do you really think this old man is old and confused? The people of the Sky region have always looked down on us. I didn't expect that they would directly treat us, the 4 great families, as fools. If you don't give us an explanation for this matter, even if there are restrictions in the Emperor's city today, we will not let you off. For a while, the people of the primitive continent and Realm Sea all pointed their spears at Lin Yu. When Yun Luo, Wang Jie, and Qi Lu saw this, they knew that they couldn't hide it anymore. They were all killed by Lin Yu. Yes, it has nothing to do with us. Lin Yu almost killed us all. But after they spoke, the people below became even angrier. Bastard, you still treat us as fools. I'm so angry, people of the Sky region. I want you to pay with your life. Everyone, let's attack together. So what if you are from a Sky region? We have people. Chapter 837. The Sequence Emperor's city was in an uproar. Emotions surged. All of a sudden, the originally supreme Tianyu camp became the target of public criticism. Yet, the 3 sequences couldn't speak of their bitterness. There were only 2 reasons. First, they were already strong enough before. They were so strong that they looked down on people from other camps. With their strength, they had the chance to kill all the sequences from the primitive continent. Second, Lin Yu, because this kid's acting skills were beyond the understanding of the 3 sequences. Even the dignified Divine Priest of Light felt a little unstable at this moment. He originally wanted to vent his anger on Lin Yu. On one hand, he was worried that his Tianyu would be wronged. On the other hand, Duke Zhu died in Lin Yu's hands. Therefore, the Divine Priest of Light attacked Lin Yu in advance, wanting to get rid of this opponent. But he didn't expect. This kid's acting skills and determination were beyond his understanding. Under his interrogation, he could still put on a show so skillfully. Divine Priest of Light. The 4 clan leaders had already surrounded the Divine Priest of Light. Impudent, are you trying to rebel? The Divine Priest of Light's old face was red with anger. Although the Divine Priest of Darkness was also angry, when he looked at Lin Yu, he only felt that this lord was different. It's very different from before. Perhaps with the current lord, he has a chance to take back what belongs to him. The Divine Priest of Darkness felt emotional. But the situation in front of him was indeed a little bad. Rebel? What a joke. Our primitive continent and Tianyu have always been on equal footing. How can we rebel? Clan leader Nangong was furious. Xian Ming and Di Luo, the two superiors of the Sea region, also joined the battlefield. Seems like Tianyu is bullying us because there is no one in Tianyu. They killed our sequence and still want to frame Linyu. Supremacy, Xian Ming snorted coldly. Originally, he didn't have a good impression of Linyu. After all, the other party dared to contradict him. But supremacy Xian Ming felt that he should help reason instead of family. Linyu was someone from Realm C, and he was the one who protected Realm C. Although they respected this light divine priest, now that they were stepping on Realm C's head, they still wanted to wrong them. After all, if Linyu's accusation was confirmed just now, Linyu would have died. Then, what awaited Realm C would be the fury of the primitive continent. At that time, the consequences would be unimaginable. Towards this type of person who almost made Realm C and primitive continent fight, how could they let him go? The Divine King said that violence is forbidden in the sequencing Emperor City. Have you forgotten? The Divine Priest of Light became nervous. After all, the Qinyan realm had brought two heavenly priests and the wind and lightning gods. Factions could be said to be the strongest in the three realms. However, right now, if the primitive continent and Realm C's camps were added together, their fighting strength might surpass his own people. Once the other party chose to fight to the death, even the Divine Priest of Light would not be able to gain any advantage. Master, what should I do now? The three who had died already knew the severity of the situation. Who would have thought that this time he would go for wool and come home shorn? He didn't kill Linyu to avenge himself. He had really screwed over his own master. What should I do? The Divine Priest of Light narrowed his eyes. His 5 fingers formed a claw, and terrifying pressure directly locked onto the 3 of them. This matter started because of the 3 of you, so the 3 of you should be the ones to forgive. The Divine Priest of Light's palm landed. The 3 of them directly flew out and knelt in front of the 4 great families and the 2 venerables of Realm C. Divine Priest of Light, what is the meaning of this? Master, don't. Fallen, Wang Jie and Qi Lu knelt down and begged for forgiveness. Then, what they faced was the cold voice of the Divine Priest of Light. Since your echelon was killed by these 3 people, this seat will hand them over to you. You can deal with them however you want. The Divine Priest of Light stood with his hands behind his back. He had a righteous appearance, but his heart was extremely vicious. Master, it was Linyu who killed them, not me. Master, we already fought with the people of the primitive continent. Although we won, we couldn't kill them all. That's right. Although we fought with them, the result was only a small victory. After all, although the echelon of the primitive continent wasn't strong, they had more people than us. Shut up. You still want to wrongly accuse the echelon of our realm, see? Xian Ming could no longer bear to continue listening. You're still leading the conversation even now. If it wasn't for you guys, could it be that those few 4 symbols realm cultivators in my realm, C, could kill so many geniuses of the primitive continent? Kill with what? Did you kill them in your dreams? Xian Ming said. That venerable Di Luo also helped to laugh. The truth is right in front of us. My realm C, the 4 great families and the echelon of the 5 regions all suffered heavy casualties. The one who had it the most comfortable was your heaven region. Only one of the 4 echelon died. He probably died when he killed our echelon, right? Hearing the words of these old foxes, every word was reasonable, but their attitude was also a bit unyielding. Qi Lu and the other 2 couldn't refute it all. The 3 of them looked at Linyu and wanted to cry, but had no tears. Now, facing the anger of so many experts on the god list, they might as well have been killed by Linyu in the 10 Square world. The Dongwang clan leader was the most senior person present. He took the lead and said to the Divine Light Priest, Divine Light Priest, you can think clearly. This matter arose because of the heaven region. It is reasonable to settle it with the lives of the echelon of the heaven region. What he meant was that if the Divine Light Priest was determined to hand over the 3 echelons, then this matter would be settled. But if he didn't agree, then the Divine Light Priest would have to face everyone's anger. After listening, the divine light priest only felt that he was being threatened. He looked at the 3 echelons on the ground and felt his heart bleeding. These 3 people, including the dead duke, were all geniuses that the Qingyun realm had spent countless resources to nurture. However, at this moment, they could only eat this damn cat alive because of Lin Yu's words. Are you sure that it was our heaven region who killed them? The divine light priest's cold voice sounded. Otherwise, it was our realm sea who killed them. Why don't you say that it was an internal strife among the 4 families? The divine light priest heard this and could only close his eyes. He was sure that there was no use in explaining. Dark priest, what do you think? The dark priest's face twitched. Why are you asking me now? Haven't you already made up your mind? When the divine light priest threw out the 3 echelons to stop the other experts on the divine ranking list from taking action, he knew that the divine light priest was going to sacrifice the rook to save the king. Fine, then these 3 people are at your disposal, the divine light priest said. He knew that if he hesitated for a while, he was afraid that a war would really break out. At that time, not only would he not be able to leave, but he might also trigger a war between the 3 realms and 5 regions. He couldn't bear that responsibility. As soon as he finished speaking, the fury of the 4 great families, 5 regions, and realm C, all of the dead echelons landed on the 3 great echelons. It wasn't us. It really wasn't us. Lin Yu, say something. Lin Yu, I was wrong. I won't trouble you anymore. Lin Yu, they roared angrily, but Lin Yu was still supported by Lin Yuan and Lin Xiao at this moment, and he felt wronged. Killing intent and anger engulfed the 3 echelons. They symbolized the strongest of the younger generation of the Heaven region. Duke died in the hands of Lin Yu, and the other 3 people who were lucky enough to escape and wanted to take revenge on Lin Yu were also beaten to death at this moment. Are you satisfied? Chapter 838. The light divine priest did not even look at the 3 corpses on the ground. His face was extremely gloomy as he asked. He wanted to know if these people were satisfied. This group of ignorant trash was actually forced to send out 3 of his disciples. Moreover, he did not have a chance to fight back, because what he had caused now was public anger. Water could carry a boat, but it could also capsize it, although these people were usually afraid of him. But in this situation where they were all angry, there was a chance to kill him. However, just as the crowd had calmed down, when the sequencing Emperor City began to calm down, thunder surged in the sky above the sequencing Emperor City. The sudden change in the sky seemed to mean that a gate of heaven was about to open in the sky. That was the entrance to the heaven region. It was also the highest place in the 3 realms and 5 regions. Lord Divine King. The light divine priest's hoarse voice was heard. He thought that the 6-winged divine king had personally descended and was about to redress his disciples' grievances. In the sky, the 6-winged divine king's voice was indeed heard. Solemn, cold. This voice spread in all directions. There was only one sentence. Bring the number 1 on the sequence list, Lin Yu, to see me. This was an order. At the same time, it was also a title. From this moment on, everyone who was shocked by this voice could not help but look at the youth who was almost wronged. Lin Yu, number 1 on the sequence list. It's actually him, the 3 people from the heaven region. Number 1 on the sequence list means the strongest sequence. Could it be that this kid really killed the people from the primitive continent? Damn it, could it be that we wrongly blamed Lin Yu? Everyone's anger was ignited again. Lin Yu narrowed his eyes slightly. Naturally, he also recognized that voice. Not bad. It was very similar to the person who attacked him in the 10 Square world. It turned out that he was really the 6-winged divine king. But this time, it was not a divine thought that transmitted the voice, but the voice of the main body. It was just a voice transmission, but it gave Lin Yu a feeling of life and death crisis. The 6-winged divine king wanted to see Lin Yu. Not only did the conferment give Lin Yu a reputation, but it also pushed him to the heart of the storm. In the future, everyone in the 3 realms and 5 regions would know that Lin Yu was ranked first on the sequence leaderboard. Perhaps, Lin Yu felt that if he really went to the heaven realm to meet the 6-winged divine king, then he would not have a future. The divine king only left behind these words. The sky regained its calm. The sky was clear and boundless. But then the atmosphere in Sequencer City exploded once again. Linyu, why are you number 1 on the ranking board? Tell me, did you kill him? Were you acting just now? The crowd was in a frenzy. The divine priest of light roared. You only know now? I've already told you. This kid is the murderer. There was a hint of grievance in his voice. A superior like him was actually playing the emotional card at this moment. It seemed that the emotional card was very useful in any group of people. Those 3 disciples of mine died in vain. Looking at the corpses on the ground, the divine priest of light felt that he had lost face, but his anger was greater than the death of his disciples. However, he still wanted to use the death of his disciples to let everyone vent their anger on Linyu. For clan leaders, I don't need to say more about this, right? The divine priest of light said coldly. At the same time, he glanced at Xian Ming and Venerable Di Luo. There were also people from the Western Shumi sect, Dong Shang Taoism, and the other 4 regions. It was these people who had forced him to give away his disciples. This, as the leader, the Dongwang clan leader, was also speechless. They had no right to know the situation in the 10 Square world, but the 6-winged divine king could. Since the divine king said that Linyu is ranked first on the sequence leaderboard, then this matter might really be related to him. The Dongwang clan leader's words made everyone believe that they had been deceived. Linyu, pay with your life. Damn it, he actually deceived us. If it weren't for the divine king's verbal order, I'm afraid we would have been fooled by this kid. Linyu, come out and face your death. Everyone's reaction was even more intense than before. This time, Linyu not only confirmed the crime of killing another sequence, but also added the crime of deceiving everyone. Seeing this, Reverend Boundless and Reverend Violet Glow also revealed difficult expressions. This matter hasn't been clarified yet. Just based on the fact that the Divine King conferred Linyu a title, you're saying that he's a murderer. Aren't you being too presumptuous? That's right. Before this matter is clarified, we still need to investigate first. What, you want to do it? Venerable Wuya and Venerable Zixia said one after another. However, as soon as they finished speaking, above the vault of heaven, there was suddenly a burst of pressure. That was the pressure from the divine priest of light. At the same time, there was a second and third pressure. That was the pressure from the 4 clan leaders. Not only them, but also the Upper Sea Domain, the Middle Sea Domain, the Demon Sect, the Ghostland, the Western Shumi Sect, and the Dongxing Sect. The experts of these forces also locked on a Linyu at the same time. Old Crow, it seems that this time we can't be kind. There's no other way. Just now, even the divine priest of light, in the face of this situation, could only choose to send out 3 of his sequences to quell the anger of the public. This time, it seems that we can't leave. Even if we can't leave, we have to send a few of them out. Damn it. If they killed the sequence, then they killed the sequence. Killing is allowed in the 10 Square world. That's a natural. You have to believe that if our sequence of the Lower Sea Domain died in their hands, I'm afraid we wouldn't even have a place to reason. But they're different. They think that the lives of their sequences are more important than ours. Qinyi, Queen of Hell, you guys go with Linyu and Linyu on. Master will guard this place. Only 10 breaths of time. Boy, go back to the boundless sea domain. The protective array there can protect you for a while. Venerable Zixia and Venerable Wuya had already prepared for life and death. Even Qin Yi, Lin Yuan, Lin Xiu, Bai Jiu, and Queen of Hell, the 5 of them also began to mobilize their cultivation. Bai Jiu and Lin Xiu can be said to be people of other forces, so they don't need to take the blame with Lin Yu. But this time, even if they came out of the 10 Square world, they still remember how Lin Yu protected them in the 10 Square world. This time, Lin Yu is in trouble. These people naturally won't stand by and watch. In an instant, all 5 of them gathered around Lin Yu. Captain, should we run or fight? Captain, you say something, we will listen to you. Bai Jiu and Queen of Hell said one after another. The atmosphere has reached a state of mutual hostility. But Lin Yu was still not in a hurry. It's okay. After saying that, he walked out. Captain, be careful. The five of them were worried that if Lin Yu went out at this moment, he might be killed by those people. It's okay. Lin Yu just smiled faintly, letting these people rest assured. Immediately, he walked to Venerable Wu Ya's side. Boy, hiding behind is fine. This is master's business. Lin Yu smiled and cupped his fists. Thank you, Venerable, but this is a small matter. Venerable doesn't have to worry. Small matter? Surrounded by so many powerhouses on the Divine God list, he could be killed at any time. This is actually a small matter? Venerable Wu Ya was shocked. Venerable Zixia felt that Lin Yu was not clear-headed. Maybe he was scared silly. In the sky above, the few experts who had unleashed their auras locked their gazes on Lin Yu. Seeing Lin Yu come out, the divine priest of light sneered. Do you want to die by yourself? Or do you want us to help you? The four patriarchs and the others also looked at Lin Yu, waiting for his answer. Chapter 839. The light divine priest wanted Lin Yu to die like his disciple. In fact, he wanted Lin Yu to die 10 times more tragically than the deaths of those three echelons. Only in this way could he eliminate the deep hatred of losing face today. And next to the light divine priest was the dark divine priest. He was also the strongest person present and ranked at the top of the divine list. His gaze fell on Lin Yu. It seemed that he was making things difficult for Lin Yu like the others. In fact, he was thinking about what would happen if they really fought in a while. How to save this lord. His life was more important than the dark divine priest's own life. And Lin Yu obviously didn't know what the dark divine priest was thinking. He just spread his hands, facing the powerful heavenly divine priest and the four patriarchs. These were the strongest existences in the 3 realms and 5 regions. He smiled faintly. Lin Yu said slowly, the heavenly divine priest is dead. The primordial continent sequence is also dead. Among the sequences present, is there anyone who objects to me being the first on the list? His voice came. It seemed to be vaguely reasonable. It was also at this moment that Qin Yi immediately understood. The sequences that were alive now were all his people. So as long as they think that Lin Yu is the strongest and deserved to be the first on the list, then what does him becoming the first on the list have to do with killing the primordial continent sequence? No, Captain is the real strongest in the sequence. Yes, we are all convinced by Captain. By Jiao and Queen of Hell, said one after another. Lin Yuan and Lin Xiu also said at the same time. No objection. Qin Yi smiled sweetly. The other sequences are all dead. Among the sequences that are still alive, young Master Lin is worthy of being the strongest. Several of us have already seen this in the 10 Square world, so the Divine King conferred young Master Lin as the current number 1 on the list. We are also convinced by this. Hearing Qin Yi's words, those who were still angry at this moment felt like a basin of cold water was poured on their heads. The divine priest of light's face twitched. For a moment, he felt as if he had fallen into Lin Yu's logic vortex. The old patriarch of the Dongwang clan clapped his hands after a moment of dizziness. So that's how it is. The immortal king chose the number 1 on the list of sequences based on those who are still alive. This doesn't mean that Lin Yu is the strongest in the 10 Square world. That's right. Strictly speaking, he's the most powerful echelon cultivator here. I told you, that brat is so ordinary. How could he kill the people of the primitive continent? You guys didn't believe me just now. We were muddle-headed. The God King chose the number 1 on the sequence leaderboard. Naturally, it would be the sequence leaderboard with living years. Could it be that he chose a dead person to be number 1 on the sequence leaderboard? Everyone suddenly understood. Lin Yu nodded at Qin Yi with satisfaction. Among all the women, he and Qin Yi had the best tacit understanding. Seeing this, the divine priest of light snorted coldly. That doesn't mean that he's not the murderer. Lin Yu smiled faintly and stood with his hands behind his back. He was not afraid of the divine priest of light at all. It seems that the divine priest of light is still a little unwilling to accept the fact that his disciples have been executed. Law? Law? What law? My 3 disciples, he wanted to say that the 3 of them did not kill anyone. But Lin Yu would not give him a chance to talk nonsense. Divine Priest, are you saying that we have wronged your disciples? Or that I have the ability to kill so many people on the primitive continent? If I had the ability to do so, when the Divine Priest wronged me just now, perhaps I would have already fought back. As a cultivator, we have established our lives for heaven and earth and our hearts for the Great Way. How can we be wronged by you? Lin Yu spoke vehemently, and everyone turned their eyes to the Divine Priest of Light. Now that Lin Yu had once again proven that he was not the murderer, these people naturally thought that the Divine Priest of Light did not believe them and felt that they had wronged his sequence. So he wanted to find Lin Yu and wait for an opportunity to take revenge. As a heavenly official of the Qingyun realm, isn't he a bit too petty? That's right. He has to admit his mistakes. This Divine Priest of Light has already asked his disciples to admit their mistakes. Why is he not admitting it now? Is he sick? I think he's just embarrassed. This person has wronged Lin Yu twice, but it was resolved by him. As the saying goes, what's true can't be false, and what's false can't be true. This Divine Priest character is clear as day. Hearing these words, the Divine Priest of Light narrowed his eyes. If there were no other Spirit King realm experts present, he might have already killed Lin Yu. Lin Yu, today's matter will come to light one day. Young people can be immoral, but I hope you will behave yourself in the future. Hearing the Divine Priest of Light's excuses, Lin Yu smiled. Forget it. If the Divine Priest of Light is not willing to accept the punishment of his sequence, I, Lin Yu, am right here. You can kill me immediately. I won't resist. With that, Lin Yu stepped into the air and arrived in front of the Divine Priest of Light. He spread out his hands and closed his eyes. He looked as if he was ready to be killed. Although this scene did not shock the entire crowd, his appearance of bravely facing death was deeply imprinted in everyone's hearts. This child, is he willing to die to prove his innocence? Among the practitioners of our generation, there is such a young talent. He deserves to be number 1 on the sequence. No wonder the Divine King personally invited Lin Yu to meet him. This person is still so courageous in front of the Divine Priest of Light. He is unparalleled among the younger generation. Seeing that everyone was speaking up for Lin Yu, the Divine Priest of Light's expression turned ugly, especially when he stared at Lin Yu, who looked as if he was about to die. He was furious, but he could not attack. Once he attacked, he would incur the wrath of the crowd. Secondly, this person was someone the Six-Winged Divine King personally wanted to meet. He still had the task of bringing him back to the Sky region, so he could not kill him. If Lin Yu had died under everyone's blades, the Divine Priest of Light could bring back a corpse. But now, if he attacked in broad daylight and the Six-Winged Divine King heard about it, he would be guilty of deceiving the Emperor. Divine Priest, are you not killing me now because there are too many people here? Lin Yu saw that the Divine Priest of Light did not dare to attack and said, if that is the case, why don't you come to my place in the middle of the night? Divine Priest, don't worry. Only you and I know about this. Even if Lin Yu dies in your hands, I will not tell anyone. The Divine Priest of Light was not the only one who heard this. Everyone present also heard this. The Divine Priest of Light was stunned. You are so shameless. Not only could he not kill Lin Yu, but if Lin Yu was assassinated at night, the Divine Priest of Light would have to swallow this darn cat personally. In other words, in the Divine Priest of Light's position, not only could he not kill Lin Yu, but he also had to protect Lin Yu's life in order to protect his innocence. He had to safely send Lin Yu back to the Sky region tomorrow. Chapter 840. Damn it! The Divine Priest of Light cursed in his heart, but he could only hold back his anger. Knowing that everyone was looking at him now, the Divine Priest of Light could only greet Lin Yu with a smile. Hee, I'm not a person who abuses justice. Lin Yu, don't worry, I will definitely send you safely to the Divine King. If anyone dares to touch you during this period, they will be going against me. This voice came with some majesty of the Divine Priest of Light. This allowed the others to somewhat understand the reason behind this. In this regard, many people who once respected the divine priest of light felt that the other party was a bit ridiculous. Of course, the divine priest of light also understood this point. It's just that now that he had fallen into Lin Yuan's trap, he had no chance to resist. Since the matter has been resolved, then today's matter is over. I announced the sequence battle of 10 Square World. The divine priest of light was not willing to give others more opportunities to slander him. Then he put on a solemn face again. His deep voice spread all over. Sequence Emperor City, one after another heard his voice. Number 1 on the sequence list, Lin Yu. The divine priest of light announced the conferment. After that, it was also in the divine king's voice, because only Lin Yu was conferred the title. Therefore, others, such as Qin Yi, Lin Yuan, Bai Jiao, and Queen of Hell, were not ranked. Of course, because the other sequences were all dead. Therefore, these people were jointly ranked second on the sequence list. There was no order. This was also the unexpected result of the sequence battle. Venerable Wuya and Venerable Zixia saw that Lin Yu had resolved the crisis by himself and nodded with some relief. Everyone dispersed on their own, and Qin Yi and others also knew that now was not the time to follow Lin Yu. But although the problem of the divine priest of light was temporarily solved, but she understood that Lin Yu was facing a bigger problem at this moment. He needed to go to the Tian domain to see the six-winged divine king. Qin Yi and others were completely unfamiliar with the six-winged divine king. However, as Lin Yu's woman, she had a premonition that Lin Yu didn't want to see the godly king. At the same time, given what the divine priest of light had just done, if Lin Yu really went to the Qingyun realm, he might suffer a great loss in the Qingyun realm. Everyone returned to their own residences. As for Lin Yu, he chose to be alone in his residence. Venerable Wu Ya and Lin Yuan did not come in to disturb him. As for Supremacy Boundless, he had originally thought that Lin Yu being personally summoned by the six-winged divine king might be a great opportunity for him. However, the moment Lin Yu returned, he hid in his room and did not come out. Along the way, he did not have the joy of a young man being summoned by the number 1 expert on the heavenly god ranking. Venerable Wuya had also seen through some of the clues. Could it be that this brat has some grudge with the six-winged divine king? That's not right. What kind of powerful existence is the six-winged divine king? How could he have a grudge with this brat? However, if he isn't, any person of the younger generation would choose to be wild with joy after being summoned by the God King. However, this brat is completely silent. Venerable Wuya couldn't understand and looked at Lin Yuan next to him. Brat, do you know what happened? Lin Yuan was silent for a while and only said one sentence. Master doesn't like the six-winged divine king. After saying that, without waiting for Venerable Wuya to ask again, Lin Yuan had already locked himself in his residence. Only Venerable Wuya was left alone in the reception hall, depressed. He doesn't like the six-winged divine king. Could it be that this old man guessed right? Venerable Wuya had a bad premonition. If there was really some grudge, then wouldn't Lin Yu's trip to the Qingyun realm bode ill rather than well? No, I have to think of a way. It wasn't easy for such a powerful figure to appear in the realm sea. If Lin Yu was given some time to grow, Venerable Wuya believed that Lin Yu could be stronger than him in the future and would definitely become a powerhouse on the divine god list in the future. He couldn't just die in the hands of the people of the Qingyun realm. Although the six-winged divine king was the reigning king of the 3 realms and 5 regions, and the 3 realms and 5 regions seemed to be on equal footing. However, the divine king was the first on the divine god list, and the divine god list was a way to measure the strength of all powerhouses. Then the six-winged divine king was the king of the 3 realms and 5 regions. Therefore, no one dared to disobey his words. However, Venerable Wuya's current state of mind was different. In the past, he naturally couldn't disobey, but now he encountered his own people and was about to be in danger. He had to disobey no matter what. On the other hand, Lin Yu, who was in the room, chose to meditate cross-legged at the first moment and raised his cultivation to a stable state. Bai Xiaoli's voice also came immediately after Lin Yu finished his cultivation. That guy wants to see you? Bai Xiaoli guessed. She didn't know the six-winged divine king, but from the voice transmission, she could tell that the other party's voice was exactly the same as the person who wanted to kill Lin Yu in the 10-square world with his divine sense. That's right, the strongest person in the Qingyun realm. Are you surprised? The corner of Lin Yu's mouth curled up, but he wasn't too frightened. Regarding this, Bai Xiaoli also smiled in appreciation. You're quite bold, kid. You should know that this is the outside world, not the 10-square world. That guy's real body is here. You should understand the difference between a real body and a divine sense. 100 times, Lin Yu only said 2 words. That's right. Under the restriction of the 10-square world, the descent of a divine sense only had 1% of the real body's combat power. However, just that 1% was already the combat power of the peak of the Spirit King realm. One could imagine how terrifying the power of the six-winged divine king's real body was. And if this kind of power was used to deal with Lin Yu, how could he resist? Lin Yu didn't know what the result would be, but since he came out, he must be under the other party's control. Just as Lin Yu was thinking, in the sky above the guest hall where he was, there was a thunderous sound. The thunderous sound came from the light divine priest, and his voice also fell into Lin Yu and Honorable Wu Ya's ears. Lin Yu is the number 1 on the sequence list, and he was personally summoned by the divine king. In the name of the Qingyun divine priest, I set up a barrier to protect Lin Yu. Tomorrow morning, we will depart to the Qingyun realm without delay. After that, the voice reverberated in the sequencer city. Those who didn't know the inside story were already envious of Lin Yu. This kid is really a carp that leaped over the dragon's gate. Yes, now everyone knows that he is the number 1 on the sequence list, and also the youth with the most potential in the 3 realms and 5 regions. Not only that, now that he was personally summoned by the divine king, maybe he will look down on the realm sea in the future. Once he becomes the divine king's direct disciple, I think even the experts on the divine god list will have to bow and bend their knees when they see him. That's right, the divine king's disciple. That is the dream of many young people. Don't talk about the young people. Even I want to become the divine king's disciple. Unfortunately, I have lived for 1,000 years and don't even have the qualifications to see the divine king. Lin Yu, this kid, why is his fate so good? To this, Lin Yu naturally couldn't be bothered to care. After the light divine priest set up the formation, the dark divine priest smiled tentatively. Looks like the light divine priest values Lin Yu a lot. Chapter 841. The divine priest of light narrowed his eyes and looked down at Lin Yu's residence. He said softly, "Ha, this lad is full of tricks. I'm just being on the safe side." He recalled how Lin Yu had hinted to everyone that if anything happened to him, the divine priest of light would definitely be responsible. The divine priest of light was not a fool. Naturally, he had made his stand clear. Now, everyone knew that he was protecting Lin Yu. Since he had already made his stance clear, no one else would suspect him. Dark priest, do you think I'm doing something wrong? You have your reasons, divine priest of light. The divine priest of light smiled faintly and did not say anything else. Instead, he glanced at the palace where Lin Yu was. However, he did not say anything and left with a wave of his sleeves. However, in the eyes of the divine priest of light, this action was a little unusual. He has never been interested in the younger generation. Could it be that Lin Yu's talent is so high that he cares about him? The divine priest of light muttered to himself. Although in the outside world, if the divine priest of light and the divine priest of darkness were present at an event, the divine priest of light would definitely make the decision. However, the divine priest of light knew that it was just because the other party did not want to care about these ordinary things. In terms of combat power, he was no match for the divine priest of darkness. Therefore, even though the divine priest of light often made decisions on different occasions and was more reputable than the divine priest of darkness in the 3 realms and 5 regions. However, he knew how powerful the divine priest of darkness was. This person could be said to be the most talented person in the Qingyun domain, second only to the six-winged divine king. Because of this, such a person would never take the so-called young geniuses seriously, because he himself was the most powerful genius. However, this time, after knowing that the divine priest of light was going to block Lin Yu's guest hall, the divine priest of darkness took the initiative to show interest and even followed him. Damn it, Lin Yu, this lad, can't be allowed to grow. The divine priest of light knew that since there was already enmity between him and Lin Yu, in that case, it would be impossible for the two of them to coexist peacefully in the future. On the contrary, when he saw the attitude of the king of gods and the dark priest towards Lin Yu, he was shocked. This made the divine priest of light even more certain that he could not let Lin Yu grow. Otherwise, when Lin Yu was stronger than him in the future, the divine priest of light would be the first to deal with him. Tomorrow, if you do anything wrong, I will definitely kill you at the first opportunity. The divine priest of light made up his mind. Once Lin Yu made a mistake in front of the divine king, the divine priest of light would have an excuse to kill Lin Yu. In another direction, Lin Yu sensed the two auras in the sky. He had already guessed the other party's background through by Xiaoli. Of course, it was difficult for him to sense their auras, even if it was honorable boundless. If the divine priest of light and the divine priest of darkness had intended to hide it, no one would have noticed it, just like the first time the divine priest of darkness had made a move. Therefore, only Bai Xiaoli had the ability to sense the approaching danger when the other party was hiding their auras. Are you really going to meet him, or what? Bai Xiaoli asked. She was worried that Lin Yu did not have the confidence. So, she casually said, "Don't worry. Even if it's his real body, I can still save your life." Lin Yu smiled faintly. "You're so capable? What a joke. If I can release my real body, then what is the six-winged divine king? Those fellows locked up in the 10 sacred grounds. Which one of them is not stronger than the six-winged divine king?" The 10 sacred grounds. Lin Yu was curious. "You haven't heard of it?" Bai Xiaoli laughed softly, as if she felt that Lin Yu was ignorant. Lin Yu just shrugged. He did not know, and he could not pretend to know. "Tell me." Bai Xiaoli was silent for a while before saying, "There are 10 sacred grounds in the universe, and in the 10 sacred grounds, we ancient beasts are locked up." Although Bai Xiaoli only casually mentioned the words ancient beasts. But in Lin Yu's opinion, if the other 9 beasts had the same combat power as Bai Xiaoli's real body, then they were not beasts. They were super big beasts. "Who put you in there?" Lin Yu asked curiously. Bai Xiaoli snorted. "Of course it's that annoying guy. That guy thought he could change the past and let humans dominate the universe. Unfortunately, the people in the 12 universes he created were all greedy and only knew how to pursue supreme power. In the end, they even lost the most precious thing." Hearing Bai Xiaoli scolding humans, Lin Yu felt a little awkward. He coughed and said, "Then what universe does the 3 realms and 5 domains belong to?" According to Bai Xiaoli, the 3 realms and 5 domains were just one of the 12 universes. And the person who locked them up was able to create such a huge universe. This person could no longer be described as a human. He was the creator of the universe. The creator of the universe. This broken place is the 12th universe. It's also the weakest of the 12 universes. Bai Xiaoli smiled contemptuously. "So, not to mention those fellows locked up in the 10 sacred lands, even the master gods of the other 11 universes have stronger combat power than the 6-winged divine king you're facing." "Kid, you still have a long way to go." Just as Bai Xiaoli was about to say something to Lin Yu, she heard Lin Yu ask, "So in the weakest universe, you're also the weakest of the 10 sacred lands?" "Impudent. How can you use the word only to describe me?" Bai Xiaoli said angrily. Her voice was so piercing that Lin Yu's mind trembled. He used his divine thought and immediately calmed Bai Xiaoli down. After all, this was his body. How could he allow Bai Xiaoli to be so presumptuous? The 10 sacred lands have no direct relationship with the 12 universes. You can understand them as, Bai Xiaoli hesitated for a moment, not knowing how to make Lin Yu understand. Lin Yu just took a sip of tea. "Just say it. I can understand. It's like 2 strings of Buddha beads intertwined together. Bai Xiaoli laughed softly, as if she felt that she had become smarter. Yes, Buddha beads. 2 strings of Buddha beads, each string of 10 beads. That's the 10 sacred lands. 1 string of 12 beads. That's the 12 universes. The 2 strings of Buddha beads are rotating. Probably every 1 million years, there will be a place that connects. This time, it just so happens that the sacred land I'm in is connected to your 12th universe. Lin Yu nodded. Then it's fate. 1 million years. In the long years, how many million years could a warrior experience? In 1 million years, how many invincible geniuses would appear out of nowhere and become an overlord? Chapter 842. It's not fate. It's your great fortune. If you're late, I'll be leaving. Bai Xiaoli snorted coldly, as if reminding Lin Yu to cherish himself. Lin Yu could only smile. He was now trapped in the cage set up by the divine priest of light. How could he be in a mood to chat with this guy? Plus, it was getting late. When dawn comes again, it will be time for him to head to the Qingyun region. At that time, there would be greater danger. What should he do? Is there any way to get out of here? You want to escape? Bai Xiaoli chuckled when she saw that Lin Yu wanted to escape. This is also a good idea. It's not realistic to leave. Lin Yu shook his head. The entire Sequencer City was probably already under the control of the Divine King. Since the other party wanted to see him, he wouldn't let him escape so easily. With the Divine King's ability, plus the rule that the Spiritual King realm couldn't use force in the Sequencer City was set by him, it wouldn't be a problem for him to control the entire Sequencer City. I can't leave the city. How about leaving this palace? Where do you want to go? Bai Xiaoli asked again. She realized that no matter how many years she had lived in the past, she could guess Lin Yu's thoughts. But when facing Lin Yu, it was difficult to guess his thoughts. This young man looked like he was only in his teens, but his calmness and shrewdness were enough to make Bai Xiaoli look at him in a new light. I'm with the Nangong family. I have something to do. Lin Yu's eyes were deep as he patted his storage ring. Nangong Tian, who was inside, seemed to have been struck by lightning. I was wrong. Let me out. Nangong Tian's wail could be heard. Lin Yu didn't bother to pay attention to it. He continued to smile at Bai Xiaoli. I need to save someone before leaving the Qingyun region. That's easy. Bai Xiaoli smiled. Lin Yu had already arrived at the back door of the guest hall. Right now, Venerable Wuya and Lin Yuan should be resting, and under the cover of Bai Xiaoli, even a Spirit King realm expert would not be able to detect his movements. They arrived at the edge of the welcoming hall, which was also a boundary set up by the divine priest of light. If they were in the Sky Desert universe, Lin Yu could have used the teleportation array that he knew of to leave. Open. While he was still pondering, Bai Xiaoli's voice suddenly rang out in his mind. A divine sense swept out, causing Lin Yu's mind to buzz. But in the next moment, a human-shaped hole appeared in the barrier. Couldn't you have told me in advance? Lin Yu rubbed the space between his eyebrows. This fella's single word had actually damaged his spiritual will. Bai Xiaoli giggled. Humans are too weak. Who knew that you couldn't even withstand a single word from me? Ignoring him, Lin Yu headed straight to the Nangong clan. Borrowing Bai Xiaoli's power, he concealed his aura and freely entered the Nangong clan. At this moment, even though it was late at night, the Nangong clan was still brightly lit. Wailing sounds could be heard constantly. Lin Yu narrowed his eyes. He could tell that the Nangong clan was holding a funeral. Son, Huang, or how could you die in the 10-square world like this? What should I do if you die? Son, those bastards from the Tian domain died, just like that. It's really too easy for them. Huang, is dead, Tian is also dead. Tian, has the aptitude of a spirit king. How could he be killed just like that? Those bastards from the Tian domain are too strong. There's nothing we can do about it. How can there be nothing we can do about it? Tian, has our Nangong clan's magical ability, the devouring starry sky. No matter how strong they are, it's impossible. Sai, the devouring starry sky, inherited from the elders is, you know it too. If it wasn't for Nangong Ming, that be *TCH, taking away the devouring starry sky that we had accumulated for generations, If Tian had cultivated the orthodox, devouring starry sky, maybe he wouldn't have died this time. Nangong Ming, it's Nangong Ming again. Did that be asterisk TCH's daughter say anything? No, Nangong Yu is the same as her mother. She's also AB asterisk TCH. We've already beaten her to a pulp, but she still hasn't said a word. Then send a man to rape her. The devouring starry sky will be taken out. Initially, the elders planned to send Tian to take Nangong Yu's body after he came back. Who knew that something like this would happen? The elders are already choosing people. Tian, and Huang are dead. Whoever takes out the devouring starry sky will be the successor of the Nangong family. Be asterisk starred. My Tian just died, and they're already thinking of replacing him. Lin Yu stood outside the Nangong family's main hall and listened to the few auras fighting against each other. He smiled faintly and patted the storage ring a few times, causing Nangong Tian to wail in pain. It turned out that Nangong Yu was still alive because the sequence battle had just started. Nangong Tian had to prepare for the sequence battle and had no time to be distracted. The Nangong family imprisoned Nangong Yu because they were waiting for Nangong Tian's triumphant return. Madam, you can't blame the elders for this. They've already chosen a candidate. What did you say? How could they be so fast? Nangong Feiyun from the side branch is second only to Tian and Huang. He's the third person in the younger generation of the Nangong family. He has just entered the 10,000 spirits realm. So, as soon as our main branch died, their side branch wants to step on us. I won't allow this. Madam, calm down. Nangong Feiyun is probably at the place where Nangong Yu is imprisoned. Damn it. That belongs to Tian. No one is allowed to touch it. The door of the main hall opened, and a woman rushed out. If Lin Yu guessed correctly, she should be Nangong Tian and Nangong Huang's mother. She was also Nangong Yu's aunt. Madam, calm down. It's useless even if we go. The old ancestor is personally in charge of this. He's now outside the forbidden area. Tonight, Nangong Feiyun will take out the devouring starry sky. Old ancestor. The woman's voice became hoarse. She knew that although her husband was from the main branch and the future clan leader of the Nangong family, there was still the old ancestor above him. The old ancestor was a top power on the heaven god ranking. May I know where Nangong Yu is now? A voice was heard, and the two of them immediately became wary. Even with their skills, they did not notice that there was someone nearby. Did that mean that the other party had heard their conversation? Who's there? Nangong Qintian's angry voice was heard. He was Nangong Tian and Nangong Huang's father. He was also Nangong Ming's brother. Nangong Qintian looked in the direction of the voice. Footsteps could be heard from the dark corner. The newcomer walked into the lantern light, illuminating a face that was extremely familiar to them. Lin Yu. Chapter 843. Damn it. Why are you here? Very well. Since the first on the sequence leaderboard is here, tell us how the people from the Qingyun region killed our Tian. Nangong Tian's mother said coldly. People from the Qingyun region? Lin Yu smiled casually. Nangong Qintian snorted. With our Tian strength, it's strange that he died in the hands of the people from the Qingyun region. Nangong Qintian squinted his eyes and stared at Lin Yu. He was curious about Nangong Tian's death. However, the fact that Lin Yu had appeared here without anyone noticing was also inconceivable to him. After all, the Nangong family was surrounded by the family protecting formation. How did this brat get in? Nangong Tian is not dead. Lin Yu knew that he couldn't afford to waste any time. This bunch of bastards had found someone to replace Nangong Tian. You're saying that my son is not dead? Nangong Qintian's silhouette flickered as he appeared 3 feet away from Lin Yu. Stretching out his hand, he grabbed Lin Yu's neck. Where is he? At the same time, Nangong Tian's mother appeared behind Lin Yu. The two of them had no intention of letting Lin Yu leave. Is this the attitude you should have when questioning someone? Lin Yu shrugged. He wasn't afraid of the two of them. He is indeed not dead. So shouldn't you be thinking about protecting Nangong Yu? Lin Yu smiled. If Nangong Yu's devouring galaxy is taken away, what's the point of Nangong Tian coming back? The people from a branch will still kill him. Nangong Qin Tian and his wife heard Lin Yu's words. Initially, they thought that this brat was just a youngster and they didn't take him seriously. In addition to the rumors from the outside world, the reason why Lin Yu was ranked first on the sequence leaderboard wasn't because he was powerful, but because the sequence leaderboard from the Qingyun region and the primitive continent were all dead. Therefore, he took advantage of the loophole. To them, this brat was the head of a chicken, not the head of a phoenix. Madam, what this kid said makes sense. Indeed, but where is Tiana now? The two of them coldly shouted. At this moment, Lin Yu's eyes narrowed slightly as he spoke with an icy tone. If you hesitate any longer, I guarantee that Nangong Tian won't live to see the sun tomorrow. His words were full of threats. Hearing this, the two of them became even angrier. You dare to threaten us? Brat, do you know how the last person who threatened our Nangong family died? When Lin Yu heard this, he smiled and stood with his hands behind his back. Facing the threat of these two people, he didn't even have the desire to fight. If you don't believe me, you can kill me right now. However, you should know that I'm currently number 1 on the sequence leaderboard. The person the six-winged God King wants to meet personally. It was also the divine priest of Light's order that no one can touch him. His words shook the minds of Nangong Qin Tian and Nangong Wuk. At this moment, the two of them realized that this kid was very bold despite his young age. No wonder you're number 1 on the sequence leaderboard. Haha, we were too impulsive. Nangong Qin Tian rolled his eyes. With Lin Yu's current status, it wasn't easy for them to deal with him. In fact, in the entire sequence leaderboard city, there wasn't a single force that dared to touch Lin Yu when they knew that the God King wanted to meet Lin Yu. That was equivalent to challenging the authority of the six-winged God King. Such a person might not even exist in the 3 realms and 5 regions. If that's the case, lead the way. Lin Yu waved his hand and took a step forward. Nangong Qin Tian's fingers were still around Lin Yu's neck. When Lin Yu took a step forward, Nangong Qin Tian had no choice but to withdraw his hand. If anything happens to Nangong Yu, Lin Yu smiled faintly along the way. I want the entire Nangong family to die with her. His words were calm. However, the more calm he was, the more Nangong Qin Tian and Nangong Qin Tian felt that Lin Yu wasn't saying something impulsive. Instead, he was stating a fact. Don't worry, it's not time yet. Nangong Qin Tian said. Soon, the 3 of them arrived at the core area of the Nangong family. This area was protected by many arrays. From afar, a huge golden figure could be seen floating in the air above a palace. The figure was like the sun that shone brightly in the sky. Within the illusory image was a white-haired old man. At this moment, the old man circulated his cultivation. Below him, in front of the palace, was a young man who was meditating. He had replaced Nangong Tian. Tonight, he was going to obtain Nangong Yu and retrieve the devouring star. He was the 3rd person in the younger generation of the Nangong family. At this moment, he was still meditating. Old ancestor Nangong also sensed Nangong Qin Tian's arrival. Stop! Old ancestor Nangong didn't say anything. The person who spoke was the leader of the Nangong family. Nangong Qin Tian, the devouring star doesn't belong to your family anymore. Nangong Tian is already dead. What are you two doing here? The leader of the family spoke. At the same time, he saw Lin Yu, who was standing between Nangong Qin Tian and his wife. They didn't participate in the sequence battle, so they didn't recognize Lin Yu. However, when they saw Lin Yu, a look of disdain appeared on their faces. He didn't have any cultivation. He was just a good-looking man. He was nothing special. My Tiana isn't dead. Tonight, Nangong Yu and the devouring star can't be given to your son. Nangong Qin Tian said coldly. His wife also took a step forward. What nonsense are you talking about? The clan leader and the experts of the Qingyun realm have already confirmed it. All the sequences from the 4 families died in the hands of the Qingyun realm's sequence battle. Everyone knows about this. Why are you still acting crazy? I think the 2 of you are crazy because you want your son to be the next leader. That's right. If you know what's good for you, get lost. From now on, the future of the Nangong family will be in the hands of our son. As for Nangong Tian and Nangong Huang, they are already outdated. Naturally, all the members of the family moved out. To them, tonight was the day that their family would rise to power. They would do their best to stop anyone who came to disturb them. Nangong Qintian's appearance wasn't surprising to the members of the family, as he was the one who benefited from the previous battle. Old ancestor Tian isn't dead yet. Please stop. Nangong Qintian ignored them and shouted at old ancestor Nangong. Shut up. Are you crazy? I think your son is dead. Nangong Qintian, you don't want to live anymore. Let's attack him together. Tonight is a big day for our family. We can't allow the main family to behave atrociously. That's right. The main family has bullied us for so many years. How dare they continue to ride on our heads? Dream on. Chapter 844. Nangong Qintian was so angry that his face turned red. Bastard, if my Tian loses the devouring sky, I'll teach you a lesson. As soon as he finished speaking, the couple had already started fighting with the people from the subsidiary families. Lin Yu shifted his body and appeared at the outer circle of the array. At this moment, a powerhouse from the Nangong family subsidiary family attacked him with his palm. How dare you come here? You're courting death. The powerhouse from the subsidiary family was at the initial stage of the 10,000 spirits realm. At this moment, the power of 10,000 spirits flame was gathered on his palm, and a flaming 10,000 spirit seal was shining between his eyebrows. However, Lin Yu did not even look at him. He swung his right hand casually, and dozens of sword chi shot out. They were so fast that the powerhouse could not dodge them in time. What? The powerhouse did not expect Lin Yu to be so powerful. In his opinion, Lin Yu was just a thief who had no cultivation base and wanted to sneak in to take advantage of the situation. In the beginning, he didn't want to kill Lin Yu. Instead, he wanted to capture Lin Yu to threaten Nangong Qintian when he saw Lin Yu and Nangong Qintian together. However, dozens of sword chi shot out at an unimaginable speed. The powerhouse at the 10,000 spirits realm put his hands in front of him to block the sword chi. However, Lin Yu's sword chi contained the power of the 8 great void tribes Qian Kuan unification chi. How could he block it? The sword chi pierced through the powerhouse, and a corpse appeared on the ground. Blood splattered everywhere. Many people from the Nangong family looked over. This person is so powerful. Damn it. Stop him. More and more people from the subsidiary families rushed over. In their opinion, they had the advantage in numbers. No matter how powerful Lin Yu was, the Nangong family subsidiary families were confident that they could defeat him. However, it was a pity that they were facing Lin Yu. The 10,000 spirits seal shone brightly. However, under the Qian Kuan unification chi, these people were turned into blood clots again. The people from the Nangong family were shocked. This kid is too powerful. Damn it. Retreat. Those who still wanted to go forward, not only did they not dare to charge at Lin Yu, but they all retreated. Nangong Qintian and the others also looked over. They brought Lin Yu here for their son, Nangong Tian. However, this time, Lin Yu had killed a few of the Nangong family's juniors. To them, this was a huge disaster. This won't do. We have to take down that brat first. Otherwise, we'll be the first to suffer. When Nangong Qintian thought of this, he clawed at Lin Yu. However, Lin Yu had already arrived in front of the barrier. Nangong Qintian could tell with a single glance that this brat wanted to barge into the barrier set up by old ancestor Nangong. Idiot, do you think you can open the ancestor's barrier? Do you really think you're number one on the sequence? However, before Nangong Qintian's voice could be heard, a crack appeared on the barrier in front of Lin Yu. Enter. You went in. Nangong Qintian didn't dare to believe his eyes. After Lin Yu entered, the barrier closed up again. Just as he was about to enter, the light above the barrier directly repelled him. Pooh! Nangong Qintian coughed out a mouthful of blood. He thought that the ancestor Nangong's barrier had been opened, which was why Lin Yu was allowed to enter. However, it was obvious that the barrier wasn't opened. Moreover, it was extremely powerful. It was obvious that the ancestor Nangong placed great importance on this inheritance. However, why was that brat able to enter? Nangong Chintian didn't dare to believe his eyes. The people from his subsidiary families also rushed over. When they saw Lin Yu entering the barrier, they were shocked. This is bad. Nangong Chintian, who did you bring with you? If you disturb the ancestor and Nangong Feiyun's inheritance, when the ancestor blames you, I won't let you off. The people from the subsidiary families scolded Nangong Chintian. Nangong Chintian coldly snorted and said, "This person is the number one on the sequence." He was personally conferred the title by the six-winged Divine King. He knew that at this point, he could only bring out the six-winged Divine King to calm the situation. However, it didn't matter if the others blamed Lin Yu. As long as they didn't drag him down, it would be fine. After listening, the people from the Nangong family's subsidiary families were also shocked. He is Lin Yu? This person is quite something. Even if he is the number one on the sequence, if he offends the ancestor in the barrier, I'm afraid he will die in the ancestor's hands. It's best not to touch him. This person is the number one on the sequence. In addition, I heard that the ancestor will personally summon him tomorrow. If he dies in our Nangong family, before the leader of the subsidiary families could finish his words. However, the others had already sunk into silence. Lin Yu represented the authority of the heaven region. How would they dare to offend him? Within the barrier, the ancestor Nangong, who was in the air above the main hall, also noticed that someone had intruded. He immediately opened his eyes. Who are you? The person who came to persuade you to stop, Nangong Yu. I'm going to take her away. Lin Yu's calm voice sounded. He didn't stop as he approached the palace below the ancestor. Lin Yu could guess that Nangong Yu was inside the palace. Only if Nangong Yu was inside would there be such a huge lineup. Outside the palace was the young genius of the Nangong family who had just stepped into the 10,000 spirit realm, Nangong Feiyun. If Lin Yu didn't come, then Nangong Yu would be his person tonight. What trash, Scram? Nangong Feiyun said coldly. Ancestor Nangong immediately shouted, "Close your eyes and cultivate. After you calm down, enter the palace. Don't delay." After he said that, Nangong Feiyun didn't dare to say another word. Ancestor Nangong looked at Lin Yu. His words just now clearly didn't take Lin Yu's words to heart. As the supreme ancestor of the Nangong family, he didn't need to give face to a younger generation. It seems that reason doesn't make sense. Lin Yu smiled faintly. With a step, he appeared at the edge of the palace. He was just a breath away from entering the palace. Lin Yu's actions made Ancestor Nangong furious. "How dare you?" His angry voice sounded, followed by an earth-shattering palm force that suppressed Nangong Feiyun. Lin Yu frowned and immediately took a step back. But at the same time, the door of the palace opened. "The time has come. Go in." With that, Nangong Feiyun's eyes were filled with joy. He licked his lips and jumped into the palace. Nangong Yu was in danger. Lin Yu frowned. He saw Ancestor Nangong raise his hand again. It was like the sun falling into the mortal world. "Great sun tempering heaven," Ancestor Nangong snorted. This person was also an expert of the Spirit King realm. Lin Yu, on the other hand, activated the 8 steps of Taishu and turned into a wisp of green smoke. Green smoke and great sun. They collided directly. Rumble. A powerful shock wave burst out, shattering the ground. The high walls of the palace were all destroyed. The people outside the barrier also noticed this moment. They were immediately shocked. The battle has begun. Impossible. Is that kid crazy? How dare he attack the ancestor? I think it's the ancestor who wants to kill him. Everyone was worried. After knowing Lin Yu's identity, they didn't want to kill Lin Yu. Once Lin Yu died, the Nangong family would be in trouble. "Ancestor, you can't kill this kid. Ancestor, please have mercy." Chapter 845. At this moment, both the branch family and the main family were begging for mercy for Lin Yu. It wasn't that they were nice to Lin Yu, but that they were afraid of death. However, the battle outside the hall continued. Lin Yu had already drawn the king's sword in his right hand. He turned into a wisp of green smoke and went against Ancestor Nangong's sun quenched the heavens. He was the strongest person in the Nangong family. However, even with Ancestor Nangong's state of mind, he couldn't help but be shocked. Someone from a younger generation is able to fight with me to this extent? He frowned. Even though he was still attacking viciously, he was trying to figure out Lin Yu's identity. He initially thought that Lin Yu was just a piece of trash who was courting death, but now he had to reevaluate Lin Yu's background. The technique that he used definitely doesn't belong to the Nangong family. Even Nangong Tian from the Nangong family wouldn't have such powerful combat power. There aren't many people from a younger generation who are more powerful than Nangong Tian in the 3 realms and 5 regions. Who are you? Ancestor Nangong's attack was countered again. Lin Yu knew that he couldn't delay any longer, so he said coldly, "You don't have the right to know who I am." But as soon as he finished his sentence, a figure flew out of his storage ring and landed on the ground. Although old Ancestor Nangong was old, he was still able to clearly see the person's face with his sharp brows and starry eyes. Even though the other party was extremely haggard and was no longer the rising star of the Nangong family. However, the Nangong family's voice was still hoarse. Tian Nangong Tian was the younger generation that he valued the most. He thought that Nangong Tian was the future hope of the Nangong family, and was even given the sky-devouring technique. Even though it wasn't the orthodox sky-devouring technique, it was the greatest recognition that the Nangong family could give. At this moment, Nangong Tian was kneeling in front of Lin Yu like a dog. "Let me go. Let me go." While he was begging Lin Yu, he also recognized the scene around him. This is the Nangong family. His territory. Nangong Tian thought that he was still trapped in Lin Yu's storage ring. But now, father, ancestor, Nangong Tian saw Nangong Qin Tian, who was surrounded by the enchantment. Soon, he saw Ancestor Nangong, who was shining like the sun. "Patriarch, Patriarch, save me." When the voice rang out, everyone's minds were greatly shaken. Nangong Tian was not dead. The hope of the Nangong family was not dead. Use his life to exchange for Nangong Yu's life. Lin Yu's cold voice was heard. Ancestor Nangong immediately confirmed Nangong Tian's condition. Lin Yu didn't kill Nangong Tian in the beginning, so the tendons in his arms and legs were still there. Although this kid's cultivation base was damaged, it wasn't irreparable. If anything were to happen to Nangong Yu, he would lose his life as well. Lin Yu's calm voice was heard again. His emperor sword was placed on Nangong Tian's neck. "How dare you?" Old Ancestor Nangong roared. Nangong Qin Tian, who was outside the enchantment, finally understood what was going on. If Nangong Tian said that Nangong Tian was not dead, now it seemed like Lin Yu was the one who kidnapped Nangong Tian. This kid's target is Nangong Yu. Lin Yu wasn't afraid of Ancestor Nangong's threat at all. The Emperor's sword in his hand flashed, and there was a wound on Nangong Tian's neck. The wound wasn't fatal, but it was enough to intimidate everyone. "Stop! Try to save him. Let's see if my sword is faster than your sky-piercing Sunday." Lin Yu looked at Ancestor Nangong calmly. Meanwhile, in the hall, Nangong Feiyun licked his lips and approached Nangong Yu's bed. 20 feet. 10 feet. "Little beauty, what's the use of your mother betraying the Nangong family?" Nangong Feiyun knew that with Ancestor Nangong's help, he had the right to take Nangong Yu's body. All of this belonged to Nangong Tian. In the end, Nangong Tian, the future successor of the Nangong family, will still be mine. Haha, you and your brother are idiots. You've been suppressing me for so many years. It's great that you died in the sequence battle. Nangong Feiyun laughed sinisterly. At the edge of the bed, there was a girl who was tied up. She couldn't move her body, but her sexy figure was accentuated by the ropes. Beautiful, what a perfect body. Moreover, there's the Nangong family's most orthodox devouring sky in your body. Nangong Feiyun reached out his hand towards Nangong Yu and Fanjinjin. The hall was covered with red curtains, which obviously meant that a wedding was about to take place. Fanjinjin's red veil was about to be removed by Nangong Feiyun. However, at the next moment, a ray of light shot out from it. It was a silver needle that shot out from Nangong Yu's mouth towards Nangong Feiyun's head. Clang! Nangong Feiyun sneered and casually flicked the silver needle away. It seems that this is the only trick you have left. Nangong Feiyun laughed even louder because he saw Nangong Yu's face. It was flawless. Nangong Ming was the most beautiful woman in our family. I didn't expect his woman to be even more beautiful. Nangong Feiyun laughed even more crazily. Very well, it's all mine. After tonight, everything in the Nangong family will be mine. Brother Lin Yu. Nangong Yu's face was pale. Her final attack, which she had gathered all her strength to resist, had been so easily neutralized. Since she was kidnapped, she had been tortured countless times. However, when she thought of Lin Yu, she endured the pain. She couldn't tell anyone about the devouring sky. She could only let others think that the devouring sky was still in her body. If not, once Lin Yu became a Nangong family's target, Lin Yu would be in great danger. Nangong Yu didn't want Lin Yu to be hurt. However, when the Nangong family found out that the devouring sky was still in her body, they tied her up. What awaited her was the humiliation of the Nangong family's descendants. Get lost. Get lost. Don't touch me. Nangong Yu shifted her body, wanting to retreat. However, she was already injured, and she was tied up tightly. How could she move too much? At this moment, Nangong Feiyun felt that Nangong Yu's current state was more attractive to him. The more you struggle, the more excited I am. Nangong Feiyun was ready to pounce on Nangong Yu. However, at this moment, the doors of the hall suddenly opened. Nangong Feiyun turned his head. Who is it? Are you looking for death? Don't you know that the ancestor is protecting me? As soon as he finished speaking, he saw a palm force grab him. Ancestor. The person who grabbed him was Ancestor Nangong. At this moment, Nangong Feiyun was thrown out by Ancestor Nangong's palm. He didn't even have the chance to touch Nangong Yu. Whoosh! When Nangong Feiyun saw the beauty in front of him getting further and further away, he wanted to die. However, in the next moment, the scene changed and he was thrown out of the hall. Ancestor Nangong was still squatting in the sky. Nangong Feiyun was confused. Ancestor, I want to devour the sky. He didn't know why he was thrown out at the most critical moment. However, Ancestor Nangong didn't even look at him. Instead, he looked at Lin Yu and Nangong Tian. Are you satisfied? Chapter 846. Are you satisfied now? Lin Yu remained calm after hearing Ancestor Nangong's words. He glanced at Nangong Feiyun. Nangong Feiyun was furious because he saw him. Ancestor, who is he? Nangong Feiyun immediately thought, did Ancestor Nangong throw me out because of this brat? However, Nangong Feiyun was shocked when he saw Nangong Tian beside Lin Yu. Nangong Tian. He was the most powerful person among the younger generation of the Nangong family. He was the nightmare of all the younger generation, including Nangong Feiyun. Because of Nangong Tian, Nangong Feiyun had never been able to raise his head. Not only was he inferior to Nangong Tian, but he was also inferior to his younger brother, Nangong Huang. However, after Nangong Tian's death, Nangong Feiyun's future became brighter. However, he was chased out just when he was about to obtain the most orthodox skill of the Nangong family. Nangong Tian, no, I must have seen wrongly. Nangong Feiyun couldn't believe it. He turned around to look at Ancestor Nangong, but Ancestor Nangong didn't look at him. Obviously, Ancestor Nangong still felt that Nangong Tian was the best candidate to obtain Nangong Yu. At best, this Nangong Feiyun was just a substitute. In order to maintain their competitiveness in the future, the internal conflicts of martial arts families were extremely cruel. Ancestor. He's not Nangong Tian. Nangong Tian is dead. Tianer is only severely injured. We'll talk about the devouring sky later. As Ancestor Nangong said that, Nangong Feiyun roared and wanted to rush into the main hall. As long as he got Nangong Yu, even if Nangong Tian came back, he would be able to crush them. But now, Nangong Feiyun didn't care anymore. He couldn't return the glory to Nangong Tian now. Get lost. Ancestor Nangong's angry voice was heard, and a powerful wave fell from above the main hall. The wave formed an air wall and pushed Nangong Feiyun away. Nangong Feiyun spat out a mouthful of blood. He was obviously injured by Ancestor Nangong. However, he knew that he couldn't enter the main hall, so he turned to look at Nangong Tian. As Ancestor Nangong said, Nangong Tian was severely injured. Very good. Nangong Feiyun's eyes flashed with a cold light. Since he was injured, if he killed him now, wouldn't the Nangong family still be his in the future? Whoosh! At the thought of this, Nangong Feiyun turned into a shadow and approached Nangong Tian instantly. You piece of trash, what are you trying to do? Nangong Tian was only afraid of Lin Yu, but he was not afraid of Nangong Feiyun. As far as Nangong Tian knew, Lin Yu was the only person among the younger generation in the 3 realms and 5 regions that he took seriously. As for the others, they were just trash. Trash, you are the trash. Nangong Feiyun's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Nangong Tian. The seal of 10,000 souls between his eyebrows had already extended a barb. If you die, everything you have will be mine. By then, you'll be trash. As soon as he finished his sentence, the 10,000 soul seal attacked Nangong Tian. Nangong Tian would never have thought that this piece of trash, who had been suppressed by him, would dare to kill him now. Ancestor, save me. Be Astra-starred, how dare you? Nangong Tian was enraged. The people from the subsidiary sects had also realized the situation. At this moment, they did not agree with Nangong Feiyun's impulsive decision. However, since Nangong Feiyun had made a move, they would kill him while he was down. They would kill Nangong Tian to prevent the people from the main sect from coming back. Nangong Tian, you colluded with Lin Yu to kill my people. Everyone, take them down. The people from the subsidiary sects stopped Nangong Tian. Ancestor Nangong's face darkened. He raised his hand and attacked Nangong Feiyun. However, his speed could no longer catch up with Nangong Feiyun. The barb shot out. It was the tail of a demonic beast. The tail went straight for Nangong Tian's life. Nangong Yu, that be Astra's TSH, will only be mine if you die. Nangong Feiyun roared. However, his barb stopped in midair. Silence. Nangong Feiyun's voice stopped in midair. He stared at his seal of 10,000 souls, which was being grabbed by a hand. It was a young man who was looking at Nangong Feiyun calmly. Nangong Yu, yours? Lin Yu raised his eyebrows. However, before Nangong Feiyun could react, his seal of 10,000 souls was pulled by Lin Yu. Crack! Nangong Feiyun felt a sharp pain in his glabella. Why? How is this possible? This brat's strength. Cultivation of 10,000 souls. Nangong Feiyun was sent flying by Lin Yu. Damn it, damn it. Nangong Tian, you found a helper? He steadied himself in midair. Nangong Tian escaped death. However, Ancestor Nangong sneered. What are you waiting for? Back off. However, Nangong Feiyun's body trembled violently. He suddenly felt a chilling aura of death spreading from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head. Nangong Feiyun's eyes widened and he retreated. However, he was still too slow. A ray of sword chi pierced through Nangong Feiyun's chest. Fast. Shockingly fast. Nangong Feiyun stared at Lin Yu. At this moment, the young man put down his hand casually. That ray of sword chi was shot out from his hand. He killed 10,000 souls in one move. That was because Nangong Feiyun said something that he shouldn't have and had thoughts that he shouldn't have. Nangong Yu is mine. Lin Yu smiled faintly. Nangong Tian was shocked when he saw this. This brat became stronger again. Thank you. Thank you for saving my life. He immediately kowtowed as he knew that Lin Yu had saved his life. Everyone in the Nangong family also saw Nangong Tian kowtowing to Lin Yu. The genius that they were so proud of was nothing more than this. Chapter 847. That person was Lin Yu, the #1 on the sequence leaderboard personally appointed by the Supreme Being. The Nangong family was shocked by what they saw. He killed Nangong Feiyun so casually. They thought that he was the third young genius after Nangong Tian and Nangong Huang. Then, Lin Yu's power was enough to make Nangong Tian bow down to him. This kid was definitely not as simple as his mortal aura made him out to be. Tiana, Nangong Qintian's heart was bleeding. It was the first time he saw his son, whom he was proud of, kneeling to someone. Furthermore, it was a young man. Even when he was facing ancestor Nangong and clan leader Nangong, Nangong Tian was still arrogant. That was because of his talent, which was also his pride. However, his pride was worthless in front of Lin Yu. Lin Yu ignored Nangong Tian. Even after killing Nangong Feiyun, he didn't even look at him. He looked at the door of the palace that was opened. Lin Yu spread out his spiritual will and locked onto a girl's aura. That was Fan Jinjin, who was also Nangong Yu. Bastard, how dare you kill someone for the Nangong family in front of me? Ancestor Nangong shouted furiously. He unleashed his spiritual king realm cultivation, and the entire palace was engulfed in a scorching aura. At this moment, the palace was like the sun that fell on the Nangong family. The sun that flattened the earth. The base of the four families in the sequencer city fell into darkness. At this moment, the sky was lit up again because of the battle between the Nangong family. What's going on? Nangong family. That's the direction of the Nangong family. An expert of the spiritual king realm has attacked. The people from the other clans also looked over. They had other territories in the primitive continent, but because of the sequence battle, many elites of the families moved to the sequencer city to help. This was also the time for the four families to show their strength. At this moment, in the Dongwang family, an ancestor stroked his long beard and squinted his eyes in surprise. What kind of opponent could make that old monster so angry? Naturally, he knew that the person who attacked was the Nangong family's strongest fighter. At the same time, he was also one of the strongest fighters who represented the four major families. Ancestor, should we go and take a look? No. Unless it was those two heavenly priests, no one would be able to leave alive from the hands of that old thing. This old man is curious. Who was it that fought with him? It wasn't just the Dongwang family. The Western Dark Clan and the Northern Hua Clan were stationed in their respective bases in Sequentium City. They also sensed the fluctuations from the Nangong family's battle. The Supreme Old Ancestor has made his move. That old monster hasn't made a move for many years. That's right. It's been more than 10 years. The last time I acted was against Nangong Ming, who betrayed the Nangong family. The old monster is old. He even let Nangong Ming escape last time. Run? Although Nangong Ming had run away at that time, I'm sure that she had suffered an incurable injury and wouldn't live for more than a few years. Then, who is the one courting death in the Nangong family today? In the Nangong family, it was difficult to determine the winner between the main family and the branch family. When they saw the old ancestors rage, they started to worry again. Lin Yu deserved to die. However, with his status, he wasn't someone the Nangong family could kill. At least, before the six-winged divine king met Lin Yu. If Lin Yu died, the Nangong family would also be in trouble. Old Ancestor, please reconsider. Old Ancestor, this kid is first on the Sequentium board. However, the Old Ancestor couldn't hear their words at all amidst the tyrannical fluctuations of the battle. He raised his hand, and the hall was set ablaze by flames, turning into a fireball that resembled the sun. Rumble. The hall shook. Nangong Yu, who was in the hall, also sensed the abnormality outside. She had just escaped Nangong Feiyun's calamity, but now she seemed to be facing an even greater calamity. The ground shook, and the hall turned into a sun. At the same time, two fiery snakes rushed towards Lin Yu's feet. He smiled faintly, stepped into the air, and dodged the fiery snakes with Nangong Tian. Let go of Tian. Seeing that his move had failed, the old ancestor thought that he could separate Lin Yu and Nangong Tian so that he could take the opportunity to save Nangong Tian. However, he didn't expect Lin Yu to be faster than he expected. He had the time to take Nangong Tian away while dodging the attack. Old Ancestor, save me. Nangong Tian kept calling for help. Lin Yu stood in the air and saw the fiery snakes splitting into four, for into 8, and attacking Lin Yu from all directions. If you want him alive, I've said it before, give me Nangong Yu in exchange. Lin Yu said coldly, I won't be threatened. The 8 fiery snakes swallowed the sky and created 8 seas of fire in the night sky. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Lin Yu dodged again with Nangong Tian. 16 Dao restrictions. Old ancestor Nangong's voice was heard again. The fiery snakes had split into 16. They were so fast, and there were so many of them that they were at a higher level. Their movements were so precise that they could completely avoid Nangong Tian while attacking Lin Yu. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Damn it! How did he dodge the old ancestor's attack? The entire Nangong family, including Nangong Tian at his peak, could only dodge 8 Dao restrictions. This brat is not simple. We were too careless. Those who fought against Lin Yu just now were no match for him. The number 1 on the sequence leaderboard is indeed powerful. The Nangong family finally understood how powerful Lin Yu was. At this moment, Lin Yu shifted his body. He knew that he couldn't dodge for long under the attack of a spiritual king realm expert. Once he was controlled by the fiery snakes, he would lose the battle. You want him? Here he is. Lin Yu tossed Nangong Tian out with a thought. Nangong Tian flew towards the fiery snakes. Old ancestor Nangong could only withdraw his attack. At the same time, Lin Yu didn't have to dodge anymore. However, he moved even faster towards the palace that was surrounded by old ancestor Nangong's sun quenching heaven. Xiaoli, Lin Yu called out. By Xiaoli snorted, that's it. As soon as she said that, the sun quenching heaven in front of her cracked open. It was just a crack, but it was enough for Lin Yu to enter. Impossible. Old ancestor Nangong sensed that something was wrong. How did you break my enchantment when you're only in the 10,000 spirits realm? Lin Yu couldn't be bothered. It wasn't the first time he had broken it. He instantly appeared in front of Nangong Yu. Nangong Yu's eyes were filled with tears. She thought that Nangong Feiyun had returned. Just as she was about to detonate the glory chi in her body to kill herself, she heard a familiar voice. It's me, Lin Yu, brother Lin Yu. Nangong Yu was shocked. She was excited about Lin Yu's arrival, but she was even more surprised. This was the Nangong family. She knew how terrifying the Nangong family was. But how did her brother Lin Yu sneak into such a huge monster? Let's go. Lin Yu's strong arm wrapped around Nangong Yu's slender waist and lifted her up. Without any hesitation, they rushed out of the hall. Chapter 848. Nangong Yu, old ancestor. We can't let him take Nangong Yu away. The rest of the Nangong family attacked at the same time. The king's sword in Lin Yu's right hand exploded, and green smoke surrounded it. Formless sword chi spread out. It was the 8 divisions of Great Void, unifying chi of universe. Whoosh! A few of the Nangong family experts at the front were instantly killed by the green smoke. Lin Yu didn't want to stay any longer and wanted to leave. Above the firmament, a flaming palm pressed down directly. Stay here. Old ancestor Nangong had already saved Nangong Tian. Now that he was attacking with all his might, the houses behind Lin Yu were destroyed before his palm landed on Nangong Tian. The night sky was completely lit up. In Lin Yu's eyes, the space in front of him was distorted by the flames. The attack of a Spirit King realm expert could affect space. Brother Lin Yu, don't worry about me. Nangong Yu was frightened. Her entire world was filled with the endless flames from the palm. What kind of terrifying power was this? Nangong Yu had no idea about the power of a Spirit King realm expert. She only had one thought, and that was to prevent Lin Yu from being threatened. Nangong Yu instinctively stood in front of Lin Yu. At this moment, Lin Yu noticed something. It was old ancestor Nangong who took Nangong Yu away. It was no wonder that he could invade the boundless sea from the primitive continent, and even take someone away right under the nose of Honorable Wu Ya. Lin Yu grabbed Nangong Yu and threw her back. In his right hand, the king's sword emitted a sharp sword radiance. In the next moment, the king's sword turned into smoke, unifying chi of universe. The endless sword chi collided with the palm of the Spirit King realm expert. Rumble. The people from the subsidiary and main sects all retreated. The powerful shockwave forced them back. Those who were at the front, even those in the 10,000 spirits realm, felt their blood boil. Those below the 10,000 spirits realm spat out a mouthful of blood. Even those who were a few hundred feet away were severely injured by the shockwave. What a powerful battle this was. That kid withstood the ancestors' attack. How is that possible? No matter how strong the younger generation of the 3 realms and 5 domains is, it's impossible for them to be at the Spirit King realm. The Patriarch is an expert on the divine ranking. Number 1 on the sequence. Is this the number 1 on the sequence leaderboard? In an instant, the scene of Lin Yu resisting Ancestor Nangong's full force attack and not being defeated was deeply imprinted in the eyes of everyone in the Nangong family. Even the people from the other clans felt that something was amiss at this moment. So powerful, there's another aura as powerful as old Ancestor Nangong. Who is this person? He doesn't seem to have the aura of the Spirit King realm, but the strength of his aura is Sword Chi. Who is it? Let's go and take a look. The people of the 3 great clans all looked over. Lin Yu's team, Qin Yi, Lin Yuan, Lin Xiu, Queen of Hell, Bai Jiao, and the others also noticed. Captain? Captain has made his move. Their hearts beat faster, and they began to approach the Nangong family. Damn it, who the hell are you? In the Nangong family's hall, old Ancestor Nangong's roar was deafening. He did not believe that there was someone from the younger generation who could fight to a draw with him. Lin Yu hugged Nangong Yu again and quickly retreated. Old Ancestor Nangong knew that if this continued, he might not be able to hold Lin Yu back. Big brother Lin Yu. Nangong Yu's heart beat faster. When she was behind Lin Yu, she still felt a great sense of security, just like when Lin Yu saved her from Fan Jian. Nangong Yu saw the corner of Lin Yu's mouth and was immediately worried. Lin Yu was injured. Want to leave? Stay here for this old man. Old Ancestor Nangong's 5 fingers formed a claw, and a suction force covered the sky. It was the divine ability of the Nangong family that he used with his Spirit King realm cultivation. Devour the stars. So. In an instant, the airflow in the sky was reversed. The cultivation in Nangong Yu's body trembled. Nangong Yu suddenly felt a sense of familiarity. I'm fine. Lin Yu smirked. Is this old Ancestor Nangong's trump card? Old Ancestor, you can't use Devour the Stars against Lin Yu. Nangong Tian had already arrived at a safe place under the protection of old Ancestor Nangong. However, he was still worried when he saw this scene. Lin Yu had the orthodox Devour Stars in his body, and only Nangong Tian knew that. However, no one could hear his voice now. The entire Nangong clan was shocked when the Devour Stars was used. I didn't expect this brat to force old Ancestor to use his divine ability. Seems like his death was worth it. I'm just afraid that if the Nangong family kills Lin Yu, they will offend the 6-winged Supreme Being. We have no choice. That brat killed so many of our clan members, and now he wants to save Nangong Yu. If he doesn't die, where will old Ancestor's face be? Where will our Nangong clan's face be? Just when everyone thought that Lin Yu was dead for sure, he turned his fingers into claws. In an instant, an even more domineering suction force appeared. In the center of Lin Yu's palm, a blue light instantly formed a huge vortex. It was a stark contrast to old Ancestor Nangong's scarlet Devour Stars. At this moment, old Ancestor Nangong's suction force completely dissipated around Lin Yu. How is this possible? This is. Old Ancestor Nangong's breathing quickened. Even with his current status, he was still shocked when he saw Lin Yu use Devour the Stars. No wonder this brat risked his life to save Nangong Yu. He had already taken the orthodox Devour Stars. Damn it, This belongs to my Nangong family. Lin Yu shook his head helplessly. When Nangong Ming took it away, it no longer belonged to your Nangong family. Devour the stars only recognized the saintess. Nangong Ming and Nangong, you had the orthodox devour stars in their bodies. As for who they gave the devour stars to, this was no longer something that the Nangong family could control. This brat will also use our devour stars. No, his is stronger than old ancestors. Why? This is impossible. The Nangong family was slapped in the face once again. Originally, keeping Lin Yu alive was just a casual move for old ancestor Nangong. However, he didn't expect that even after using all his trump cards, he still couldn't deal with Lin Yu. Not only could he not deal with him, at this moment, old ancestor Nangong's devour stars began to reverse. This was the orthodox beginning to restrain the pirated version. Bastard, this old man's cultivation. Old ancestor Nangong's heart trembled. Not only was he unable to keep Lin Yu here, but his cultivation was also being sucked away by Lin Yu. Lin Yu narrowed his eyes. He knew that he couldn't delay any longer. At this moment, the experts from the other families had already arrived. Their divine senses locked onto Lin Yu and old ancestor Nangong at the same time. Chapter 849. If you don't stop now, your spiritual king realm cultivation will be used by me. Lin Yu sneered. Ancestor Nangong's face darkened as he stopped his cultivation. Boom! The two of them were pushed back by the shockwave. Lin Yu didn't stay any longer and flew out of the Nangong family. Only then did the people from the other three great clans appear. Old thief Nangong, did you fail miserably at such an easy task? That brat is Lin Yu, right? Not bad, not bad. Is he too powerful, or have you regressed? You can't even hold him back? Ancestor Nangong's face turned red when he heard the mockery, but he couldn't say anything. Qin Yi and the others immediately went to Lin Yu's residence after seeing that Lin Yu had left safely. Baiju squinted his eyes and paused for a moment. He saw Nangong Tian in the sky. Ancestor, you have to help me. Nangong Tian told them everything that happened in the 10-corner world when he saw the four families gathered together. With his embellishment, it became that Lin Yu had taken the initiative to slaughter the members of the four great families. It wasn't that the sequences of the four families had surrounded Lin Yu to take over Lin Yu's territory. My son, Shi Ming Supreme. Lin Yu killed him. Damn it. Isn't he in sequence of the Qin domain? This brat. He lied to us. Nangong Tian, are you telling the truth? Nangong Tian was stunned. He did hide the truth in order to smear Lin Yu's reputation. But before he could say anything, Ancestor Nangong snorted angrily. How can this be fake? You've seen how powerful Lin Yu is. Even I can't do anything to him. If he wants to kill the other sequences, he has the ability to do so. Oh no, Baiju knew that something was wrong. He quickened his steps and headed to the guest hall where the boundless sea was. The people from the four great clans were also heading in the same direction. Outside the welcoming hall of the boundless sea, the divine priest of light used his powerful cultivation to set up the enchantment. Originally, no one could enter. However, when Lin Yu and Nangong Yu appeared, Bai Xiaoli released a spiritual will attack in Lin Yu's mind, tearing another hole in the barrier. At this moment, inside the barrier, Venerable Boundless looked at Lin Yu's empty room and fell into deep thought. Coupled with the fluctuations of the battle coming from a Nangong family's direction, he could guess that Lin Yu had gone to save them. Could it be that this kid went to save Fan Jinjin? Venerable Wuya said worriedly. Why didn't you tell me? It's too reckless. If the people who took Fan Jinjin away were from the Nangong family, how could he save her by himself? With this thought in mind, Venerable Wuya arrived at the edge of the enchantment. However, just as he was about to break through the barrier and leave, a rebounding force erupted. Rumble. The enchantment formed hundreds of light circles from top to bottom, directly locking onto Venerable Wuya. Divine Priest of Light, you've gone too far. Venerable Wuya roared angrily and dodged the light circles. However, he also knew that this was just a warning. With his current strength, he still couldn't escape the ending set by the divine priest of light. The difference in their combat strength was too great. Meanwhile, in the divine priest of light's bedroom, at this moment, he and the dark priest were looking at the teacups in their hands. The atmosphere was a little heavy. How did he do it? The divine priest of light frowned, still unable to understand. With his vast knowledge, he naturally already knew about the battle between the Nangong family. He didn't need to show himself to know that it was the battle between old ancestor Nangong and Lin Yu. However, logically speaking, Lin Yu is already under house arrest. How could he appear in the Nangong family? Wasn't this a slap to his face? Dark priest, do you know the reason? The divine priest of light looked at him suspiciously. He was sure, in this sequencer city, if there was someone who could break through his enchantment, it could only be the dark priest who was ranked higher than him on the divine ranking list. Are you stupid, divine priest of light? I've been with you all this time. The dark priest shrugged helplessly. After that, the divine priest of light also retracted his gaze. I'm overthinking. I just don't understand how he got out. Since you don't understand, why don't you go and see for yourself? The dark priest smiled faintly. Those useless people from the four big families seem to be looking for trouble with Lin Yu. So be it. It's best to kill that kid. The divine priest of light snorted coldly. However, the dark priest shook his head. I think the four big families have been fooled by Lin Yu once. They might be fooled a second time. If they can't kill Lin Yu and Lin Yu escapes in the chaos. As soon as the dark priest finished speaking, the divine priest of light had already turned into a ray of light and headed to the Boundless Seas guest hall. The divine priest of light understood before the dark priest finished speaking. If Lin Yu died in the hands of the four big families, he could use the four big families as an excuse. Under the joint attack of the four big families, Lin Yu, who had angered everyone, was killed on the spot. Even if the six-winged divine king knew about this, the divine priest of light would have a reason to say that he couldn't do anything. He would only receive a small punishment. However, if Lin Yu escaped under the divine priest of light's nose, the divine priest of light would be incompetent. After the divine priest of light left, only the dark priest of light was left in the bedchamber. He looked at the wine swirling in the cup in his hand. Sir, I'll help you get through this. The dark priest of light smiled faintly, as if he had made an important decision. He drank the wine directly. At the same time, his figure disappeared from the palace. In the guest hall, Venerable Wuya's old face was red. He couldn't get out, and he didn't know whether Lin Yu was dead or alive. Damn it, how did that kid get out? Is the divine priest of light's barrier serious? Venerable Wuya was helpless. Kid, don't die in the Nangong family. You have a hold on until I save you. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the barrier in front of him suddenly cracked open. Venerable Wuya stared blankly as the two figures walked in. After that, the hole in the barrier closed without anyone noticing. How is this possible? Even with his spiritual king realm power, he couldn't break the barrier in the slightest. Now he saw Lin Yu walk in, and he was being supported by Fanjinjin. Fanjinjin, Venerable Wuya had seen Lin Yu's daughter once before. Although he didn't have much of an impression of her, Venerable Wuya had memorized Fanjinjin's appearance many times because his goal wasn't just to participate in the sequence battle, but also to save someone. You brat, you really saved him? Venerable Wuya couldn't believe it. He stepped forward and saw that Lin Yu had some injuries. Greetings, Venerable One. Nangong Yu greeted him simply. Venerable Wuya's status was supreme in Nangong Yu's heart, as she was born in the Boundless Sea. However, she was worried about Lin Yu's injuries and couldn't bow at all. What happened to him? Venerable Wuya asked immediately. Nangong Yu didn't hide anything and told him about the battle in the Nangong family. At the same time, she settled Lin Yu in a room. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.